Yo.
Hey, welcome to the new meta, episode 180.
180. Big one.
That's the big one. You guys didn't notice there's somebody between us today.
I hate when
Hey,
people.
what's up?
How you doing, Wyatt? Welcome. Thanks for agreeing to do the podcast. We've been trying to get you on for many years now.
Yeah, probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. It's been a while.
Since episode
like
1?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome. I'm glad you came on. If you guys don't know, I'll do a quick intro real fast in case you haven't heard of Wyatt or you just wanted some more background. So, you started off, you got your electrical engineering degree. This is a fact that I thought was kind of interesting, Wyatt. You got a BS in electrical engineering from Simon Fraser University.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're an actual electrical engineer. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna circle back to that. That's why I bring it up. Joined Blizzard North in 2003. That sound about right? Okay.
That's right.
Started to work on the WoW team, if I remember correctly.
I was at Blizzard North, and then when Blizzard North closed and I came down to Blizzard Irvine, I worked on the WoW team at Blizzard Irvine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but there was some period of time at Blizzard North that there was like Blizzard North's version of Diablo 3.
Okay.
Oh.
You had your hands dirty on that too?
There was some work on that, yeah.
All right. Awesome. So you worked on WoW. Then you went to the D3 team, which, I think a lot of us are pretty familiar with that. And then from there, you went to now you're the game director on Diablo Immortal.
That's right.
And then the fun fact is you also taught game mechanics at Laguna College of Art and Design.
I did that for a few years. That was really fun. I'd keep doing it, but I kind of ran out of time.
Yeah.
But I'd like to do again still someday.
That's pretty awesome.
That was like I mean, I didn't leave Blizzard to do that. I was teaching night class
after hours. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So,
did you have the same role your whole time on the Diablo 3 team, or did that change?
It changed over time. Yeah. I mean, it depends. I mean, at Blizzard North, I originally started as a tools and gameplay programmer. And then when the project was rebooted in Irvine, I did my official title was a technical game designer. And then went on to do game design, systems design, and then later on patch lead.
Right on.
Awesome. So I guess I'll jump into the Diablo 3 since Fluff already took us there. So you started, your initial was game design, you said, or what was your original role?
Technical game designer.
Technical game designer.
So
what did you do? Tell me about your role.
Yeah, in like what year was that? I guess that would be like 2007, something like that. I might have the year a little bit off. There were there was, I guess, as the game industry grows, the roles get more specialized. And like way back in like the 90s, there would be like a bunch of artists and a bunch of programmers, and they would get together, and no one had a designer title. That was pretty common back in the 80s and 90s. If you were playing like Sid Meier's Civilization or something like that, right? It was just some people who loved making games. And then as the industry gets older, or matures, and the teams get bigger and people get more specialized. And so nowadays you'll have, game designers, and then we had like technical game designers. Those are typically people who understand how the code and the programming of things work, or understand like balance and numbers more, or people who focus on like systems and how the different parts of the game are interacting. On the art side, you see the same thing. You have artists, but then you also have like technical artists and VFX artists, visual effects artists, and animators. Just everyone gets more and more specialized, so that people can get like really, really good at some parts of the game.
That's awesome. So then your game design, what did you do? Like what was your give me the typical day in the life
like
of
for Diablo
Wyatt.
3?
Yeah, for Diablo 3, like, what did you like? Tell me. Like, you woke up, you rolled into Blizzard, and then you're working on what were you working on? What were you doing?
I was working. So one of the first things I did, we looked at how does the character respond to like mouse clicks. So there's like I don't know if you ever really thought about it, but like when you click on an area in the ground, for example, you have to. This is gonna sound. Is it okay if I nerd out a little
Oh,
bit? I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
how specific you
Yeah,
guys want to
totally.
be.
Yeah, no,
But
totally
like
nerd out.
even if you click your mouse, you assume, hey, I'm gonna click on the ground, and that's where my feet should go, presumably. But sometimes you don't actually think that's where your feet should go. Like the person's perception might be that's where my like the center point of my character will be, and so that means that your feet are actually offset by that amount. Most games will just do where you click is where your feet go, but that actually kind of changes a bit if you're like shooting a projectile. And so if you watch like if you think about like the geometry of the camera and angle of everything, if I'm going to shoot a bow, the bow is actually being the arrow is actually traveling like 4 feet off the ground, and
Right.
so you have to draw like a ray from the camera to the ground, extrapolate the height of a monster that would be standing at the place that you clicked, and offset the projectile by that amount. So there's like there's a bunch of like noodly stuff like that needs to be done to make like an isometric game work correctly. And there's like hundreds of little things like that. There's like what happens during the like 100 milliseconds of latency between the start of the animation and the time that the animation actually makes contact with the enemy. There's that's like really detailed stuff. There's like uh, uh, how long after the start of an animation can I cancel the attack? So if I, again, this gets super nerdy. If I click on an enemy to a swing, right? And you imagine that the barbarian, let's say you're playing a barbarian and you're swinging your weapon. There's like a third of a second before the weapon actually makes contact with the monster. But people are clicking super fast. And so you actually have to ignore all the other clicks that the player is making because you don't want to interrupt someone in the middle of a swing.
Or he's stutter stepping and never actually gets the attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then there's like a bunch of logic to say, okay, well, you want to be able to stutter step, but you don't want to have a case where someone like starts swinging, interrupts after the contact frame that does damage, moves for 1 frame, and then attacks again and starts the attack animation, because then that could actually be a DPS increase, if that makes sense, because you like canceled your own animation. So you have to like track how long the animation should have taken and force that the player can only do movement until the time that the animation would have taken to complete. So anyway, that's, I don't know. We're like what, like 3 minutes into the podcast, and I'm like nerding out about like animation frames.
No, that's interesting, man. It all makes sense, though.
It's interesting how those things come back up too. Like you look at some like Furious Charge, you could like animation cancel and just exploit the crap out of it.
Charging. Cancel it.
Yeah, because when we first designed Furious Charge, it wasn't really designed as something that you use 15 times in a row. It wasn't until the legendary items came later, and then people got a lot of attack speed and stuff like that. So anyway, I did a bunch of that. I also did monster spawning. How do we spawn areas? Monster behaviors, player skills, inventory, loot dropping, loot systems, all that stuff. I touched a lot of different parts of the game. And it's all a team. So like I guess I should be really clear. Everything at Blizzard on a game like Diablo is done as a team. So I am one of many people working on all of these different things.
Design all those systems. Yeah.
Right.
Did you work on, this is like out there, did you ever work on the like it was like the old charm system for D3?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you I don't know how much you know about that, but
a little bit, yeah. But maybe you can elaborate on what could have happened in D3.
Yeah, so there was so in Diablo 2 there's charms, right?
Yeah.
And Diablo 2 the charms, actually the charms they could be 1 by 1, 1 by 2, or 1 by 3 in your inventory. And some people are like, oh, charms are this like brilliant design because it, forces you to make tough choices about how much inventory space you have versus how much power you want from charms. And other people are like, what are you talking about? That's terrible. Like, why do I want my inventory to be full of charms?
Yeah.
And so we thought, okay, well, for Diablo 3, let's carry forward this idea of charms, but let's allow the player to have a dedicated space to hold their charms. And so we designed what was called the talisman, which was a place that would hold 9 objects that would have charm-like properties. But then we were like, oh, well, this should be a little bit more interesting. People start to geek out. They're like, hey, what if the charms were different colors? What if they could fit into different shapes? What if the configuration? What if they like buffed their neighbors? What if they had like rules like, plus 2% movement speed when placed to the left of a blue charm, whatever
like
that
Tetris.
means,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tetris, right?
Yeah. And so we actually played around with that for like years. And it wasn't until like the last 3 or 4 years of development, I don't know exactly when, but it just wasn't coming together. And I think the reason it wasn't coming together is so I actually described this during the 10th anniversary. I like answered a bunch of questions on Twitter last week, and someone had asked about that. So I'm trying to remember the details that I gave there. And maybe it'd be better if I could inject some new information here. But sometimes manipulating a bunch of stats on items is a little mathy. That's what that's kind of a slang term. And it's like, hey, there's probably a right answer. I just have to move things around until they mathematically make the best possible result. And that's not really always fun. And sometimes, you just end up copy pasting the stats of all your charms and throwing them into a website, and the website does the calculation for you. And we didn't really want to have a system like that. Right. And so we wound up removing it. It was adding a lot of complexity without adding the depth that we wanted.
Yeah. When you decide to remove a feature, right? Like you've got years of development in that charms feature. It sounded like, right?
Yeah.
So when you decide to get rid of that, how's that process? Like for somebody that's not in the gaming scene and I always want to be like a fly on the wall. Like how does that go down? Like one day somebody wakes up and says, "Yeah, we're killing it," or does it like collectively? Like how does that happen?
So every decision is different. That particular decision was when 4 of the system designers got together, and we basically it was an unrelated conversation. It was sort of we were talking about some other game, and I don't remember what it was, and we were commenting, wow, like games just keep growing in complexity, and it's really easy to add systems, but it's really hard to remove them, because every time you remove a system, people who love that system kind of complain, right? They're like, oh, you took away something I really liked. So, but making a sequel is really hard, because when you make a sequel, it's like, well, which systems do you bring forward and which systems do you not? You can't bring forward everything, because you get to like Diablo 4. Diablo 4 is not going to have every single system of every Diablo game before it. You have to make a judgment call of like what's important to retain and what can you innovate on. And so we just kind of had this conversation, and then we kind of just said, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we look at all the systems that we currently have in Diablo 3 that we just copied over from Diablo 2 and make a decision? Is this something that we would have done if we were building the game up from scratch and weren't, just trying to match feature parity with a previous game? And we kept almost everything at that point that we had, but charms kind of stuck out as, I don't know if we would have like voluntarily come up with a 9-space charm grid that holds minor attribute powers with a color symbol matching game had we not been trying to carry forward a system from Diablo 2.
It's funny too, because like we saw like Grim Dawn, I think even last Epoch kind of picked up that same idea where you had like a very specialized charm bag. I wonder, like, so that code surely exists on GitHub somewhere. Can we have Frankie just make that like a seasonal theme, or?
Maybe. I mean, I want to be
Right,
clear. I don't.
spoilers, right?
Yeah, I want to be really clear that I don't have any problem with having a charm system in the game, right? So I'm not trying to like
Sure.
bag on that. I'm just saying that like games grow in complexity over time, and that's okay. And as your player base gets more sophisticated and understands your game more, they look for more. And so I totally think Diablo 3 could have brought a charm game in as like a post-launch feature, but it didn't make sense for a launch game where you don't want like just this like absurd complexity level on day one.
Yeah.
Talking about day one. You remember day one?
Man, I feel like I set myself up for that one.
I was gonna get to this
didn't mean
one
to.
way or the other way. It was just
That's
perfect.
okay.
You set me up. You
yeah.
teed me up. You teed me up.
You've got it like on the side, like things we're gonna hit Wyatt about.
Yeah.
Boom.
So like
one.
no, I want to talk about this. Like I remember. I honestly can't remember the error code. The error code 30 something, 39, 36.
37.
I'm sure you know. So yeah, so 37. So tell me about launch, but not just launch day and the bad stuff. Tell me about all of it. Like, you know, the week, like building up to it. Like, you know, how hype was it? And then it launched, and obviously error code 37. But then once you got it going, like how was it? Like, give me like, what do you remember about launch?
So one thing I'll say is that like error code 37, I don't even remember. I don't personally know what it represented. You would have to ask one of the engineers that. And I think that afterwards there was a lot of internal discussion, like, why do we use error code numbers? Like there's this whole like couldn't we have like explained to the user why that happens? And there's like a bunch of reasons why we use error code numbers and stuff like that. But I think 37's actually been permanently banned as an error code number at Blizzard now. But like apart from that, I mean, I think shipping a game is really exciting. Like the whole team gets just super stoked. I mean, you've been working on it every day. I mean, if you kind of imagine as like a player or a fan, like for a game that you're looking forward to, like you get all excited and you're counting down the days. And this is just people who want to play a game, not people who've spent, you know, every waking minute, you know, working on the game for the last few years. So you can kind of imagine how hype and excited the team would be as well. And so when the game actually comes out, we have a launch celebration. Back in Diablo 3's release, we were still doing midnight signings, if I remember correctly.
That's awesome.
I mean, WoW was doing that for a while. I don't know if you ever done like a midnight release for World of Warcraft.
I
know you
did
played a bunch of WoW.
actually, yeah. I didn't get to, like, obviously I don't live in Irvine, so I didn't get to go meet any of the dev team, but I did. They launched, and you back when TBC and Wrath, you actually had to have a physical box. You still couldn't download, I don't think, at that point, or digitally buy it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you had to have a box.
I remember waiting at midnight at GameStop or whatever it was to go buy my copy, and we're, you know, nerding out to the people in the line in front of me. Like, I don't know them, never talked to them before. We're talking about, you know, our classic kills and stuff. So yeah, play thing.
Yep, totally. And then a little bit later, there's that like awkward transition moment where you can get the game online, but you can also get it in a box. And then the people who want to go to a midnight signing are actually the last ones to get online because everyone else at midnight is just zoning through. And you have to like decide whether you want to be at a midnight launch with other people or actually playing the game. Right. But Diablo 3, man, you know, my memory, sometimes I get the launches of different games confused, but I'm pretty sure that had a launch at the local shopping center. It's called the Irvine Spectrum, and it's just down the road from Blizzard. And we had actually arranged with like the GameStop there to have a whole bunch of tables set up, and the whole team would sit at the tables. And if you bought a copy of the game, you could have it signed by the development team.
That's awesome.
And so like that night, and I think we did it early, like 9 p.m. or something like that. I don't remember. Or maybe it was midnight. Yeah. And so, yes, it was midnight because we were there till like 2 or 3 a.m. Yeah, I remember that. And people would buy their copy of the game and then come through the line and get it signed. And so that's what I was doing on launch night. And then you go back and play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Did you play on launch day?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we tried. Maybe Eric had 37.
launch weekend. Yes.
Yeah, I definitely played as soon as I was able to.
Yes.
I don't remember.
As soon as they
exactly
came
when
online. Yeah.
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 And then got to Act 2 and had an unfortunate
Act 2, Inferno.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those bugs, man. Get you.
Yeah. Yeah. The ones that spit the yellow.
Yeah.
The yellow bugs. Bugs shooting bugs.
So
do you have any?
Yeah. Can we talk about like the auction house? Like, do you remember like the idea behind it and why they maybe thought it was going to be this great feature? And then, maybe why it ultimately failed?
The
didn't fail.
auction house we thought was going to be a great feature because in Diablo 2, I remember playing Diablo 2, and if you wanted to trade items, you were either going to external websites or you were hanging out in a trade chat channel. And you were just like spamming, and there's all this like terminology, like you didn't have item linking. You had to like describe the item. Then you'd get into a game, and then people get scammed because like I guess the trade confirmation wasn't as good. World of Warcraft fixed a lot of this, by the way. I mean, World of Warcraft added item linking and also added like double confirmation where one person swaps an item, but like there were all sorts of like trade tricks that people use to fool each other, like swapping the item at the last minute before someone hits confirm in the trade window and stuff like that. And game developers have gotten a lot smarter trying to like build in protections against that. Like, if you change one of the items, it like disables both and holds for 5 seconds before you can hit the trade button again, and you have to like mouse over the item to look at it and confirm and stuff like that. But like Diablo 2
did WoW that way once. Like
you did
in vanilla, I got scammed. Somebody stole an item with the swap technique. Like they timed it perfect. They swap it right as you hit trade. And I'm still salty to this day. I'm still salty about it.
Yeah. So the thinking behind the auction house was, wow, this trade experience is miserable. Let's add something to make that better. Let's support that firsthand. And then as for why it didn't work out, there's a bunch of reasons,
Sure.
but probably the biggest is that it circumvented the main reward path. Main point of Diablo is go out, kill a bunch of monsters, get some loot. That loot makes you stronger, and now you want to go and kill more monsters. And if the best way to get loot is to go to the auction house instead, well, then why am I killing monsters, right? It kind of like that's no longer this like activity that you're doing to grow in power over time.
So was there no middle ground that was discussed, between where D3 is at now, where it's like, virtually no trading whatsoever, and the trading auction house, which was like everything? Was there like any middle thing discussed, or?
There was middle ground discussed.
Okay.
And in fact, we experimented with some middle ground. So I think we were just like 3 weeks into Diablo 3. And I know it took a while for us to remove the auction house. And that's like a story in itself because there's all sorts of complexity involved in actually phasing it out. One of the reasons, by the way, which, oh gosh, I don't know if the legal department is okay with me saying, I'm just going to say it, doesn't matter, is that it actually says on the box, has an auction house, right? And so if 1 month after the game comes out, there's no more auction house, then it's no longer like there's like a truth in advertising that if you say your game has a feature, you have to have the feature. And you couldn't have someone go to GameStop 4 months after release. It says it has an auction house, and then we say, nope, auction house is gone. And so like that was kind of a thing. And we actually talked about, wow, do we recall all these boxes and like put stickers on them and say, Diablo 3 does not have an, I was like, no, we're not going to do that. That's ridiculous. And I'm glad that we were able to say, so they basically said, hey, look, like games change over time. It's totally fine. You can remove it, X months later, or for the expansion, Reaper of Souls, stuff like that. That was their advice. And so that's what we did. So like that was one reason why like we started to see problems with the auction house, pretty early on. And here's the thing, even if we could, I don't know that we would have. Because like I said, like some people didn't like it, some people loved it, right? And it's not clear. And you're trying to sort out, and we didn't have like, I don't know, just the sophistication of surveys and data that companies have, nowadays, where like you just have voices on forums, right? Like, and Reddit, like, and you know how Reddit is. Like, there's just, like it's just voices of certain like people, and so it wasn't clear what percentage of people loved the auction house and what percentage of people were being harmed by it. And so we had to make a big decision like that really carefully. So one of the experiments that we ran was an Archon set. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there were 4 crafting recipes that were added in like, I don't know, 1.03 or something like that. I don't even remember how we numbered patches. But there was a patch that added like Archon braces, Archon belt, Archon, I don't know, there were gloves. There were 4 items, and you needed crafting material. One of them was a predecessor to Death's Breath, if it wasn't called Death's Breath. I don't even remember. Andrew Chambers added this. And the idea was, let's add something. It was level 63 gear. The stats were really good, and it was bound. There was no way to trade it. And so we could figure out, does this make the game more fun to have 4 item slots that you had to find yourself? And we let that run for a few months, and we said, yes, yes, it does. It does make the game more fun. Let's take it all the way. I guess you were also asking, is there a middle ground? I think there could be a middle ground. I think that we didn't have that many shots on goal, so to speak. We had the Archon recipe, and then we had to make a decision for Reaper of Souls. And I think just because of the controversy or the mixed feelings on the auction house, we said, the safest thing to do, because we know finding an item yourself works, and because if we're wrong, like it's almost like, what is the cost of doing it one way? What is the cost and risk of doing it another? We're like, you know what? Find your own items, but let's retain trade if you were in the same game together. And that was kind of the middle ground that we had. And that's what's maybe in an alternate universe, we would have been more conservative. And in some other alternate universe, we would have been slightly looser.
Yep. Makes sense. I was quite happy with how it ended, because I was with the crowd that was like, I spent all my time in the auction house. Like, I barely playing the game, and that's not what I signed up for at all.
I did that too, and it's not really what I wanted to do. It just became more efficient. It was like, I can play the auction house. I can find deals, sell the deals, make gold, buy better deals, and before I had a full set of gear and didn't even play the game. Like, oh,
cool. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with how much friction there is. If you look back at like the whole experience in Diablo 2 that I described, if you just kind of abstracted it and said trading in Diablo 2 had a ton of friction, right? Third-party website, no links, trade. Auction house removed all of that friction. That makes it too easy. Is it okay to have trade if there's just a lot of friction?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm not against it, though, in its entirety. I think the auction house works extremely well in World of Warcraft, and I think it works. And Trade League in general in PoE is fun for me. Like, I know Fluff hates it.
Disagree.
He's SSF to the core. But for me personally, when I played PoE, I almost had as much fun playing the trade portion of PoE as I did actually playing the game. So I can definitely see the draw there. So
Usually when I play PoE, I usually start the league. I don't usually sign up for like a solo self-found flag. I usually start, but I play like a solo self-found, and I just do that until I'm like, I think I'm getting near the end of this league for myself, and then I'll start trading, and it's almost like it gives me like a second engagement,
Okay. Second
bump.
win.
Yeah. And then I go, okay, I'll trade a bunch with all the currency I've got. Okay, that's good.
yeah.
But the fact that PoE still stays with like this cryptic trading system from like Diablo 2 is just like, oh my god.
The trading systems from Atari, man. What are you talking about? So.
Anyways.
So I kind of skipped one thing that I wanted to ask. Is there any? This is super, like, kind of abstract, up to you. So if you don't have a great answer off the top of your head, you can skip. We'll come back if you think of something.
Okay.
But is there any story from development that jumps out to you? Is there like this would be a cool story to share on the pod? Like, do you have any development story from Diablo 3? Or it can be anywhere. It could be a different game for that matter. But, and then to piggyback kind of into that too, I don't know if you could talk. Are there any classes that you guys tested internally for D3 that didn't make the cut? Can you talk about that? If not, I understand as well, but. 100.
This isn't what you ask, but have you ever wondered why like a Diablo do we use yards? Doesn't look like a yard. Like if you actually like skills will say, oh, it's 30 yards.
Yeah.
You're like, what are you talking about? Like, is the barbarian like 15 yards taller or something? Like, have you ever wondered that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. So I guess that's not really like this is like a lot has to do with the history of the game. So the game originally was being made at Blizzard North, as I mentioned. And when we were making Diablo 3 at Blizzard North, we had a class that was called the Slayer. And the Slayer was kind of barbarian-like, but like the thought at the time was, hey, Diablo 2 doesn't really copy classes from Diablo 1. It kind of like introduces a bunch of new classes. And so we thought, okay, well, for Diablo 3, we're going to have all new classes. None of the classes will be the same. And then when, Diablo 3 stopped development at Blizzard North, and we came down to Irvine and we rebooted the project, and Jay Wilson, came in as the game director, and he looked at this and goes, why are you guys calling it the Slayer? That's a barbarian. And we're like, yeah, but like it's new and it's got like a slightly vibe, and he's wearing more shirt, more clothing and stuff like that. And he was like, nope, that's going to be the barbarian. And so we basically, like, the artist started to like tweak the model to make it more of the barbarian, except the height was all off because I guess I can't remember if Slayer was just like monstrously short or tall or whatever. But then like the whole game at the time was built on feet, meters.
Okay.
Meters. I can't remember. Okay, I am butchering this story, but we basically scaled the barbarian with the Slayer by 1.3, like 30% bigger, and said that's the barbarian. That's what feels right. It looks good on the screen. It looks good compared to the height of everybody else.
Yeah.
Anyway, it must have been feet, because then you fast forward later on, like way in the future, and we get to localization, and we have to localize the game into all these different languages. And we realize that the United States is the only place that uses feet.
Right.
And everyone else uses meters. And we're like, oh no, we made this whole game in like feet. And the feet weren't even real feet. They were like distorted feet because they were like 1.3 scale off of regular feet. Because everything then got built off of the Slayer, who then became the barbarian. So now everything's like 30% off of 1 foot. And in order to localize correctly, we'd have to like detect what language or what country you're in, what unit of measurement they have, and then convert all the tooltips. And we're like, we're not doing that. From now on, we're calling these yards. A yard is about a meter. And something that used to be a foot is now a yard. And that's why it makes no sense, is because it's like, if you take every single unit of measurement in Diablo 3 and think of it as 30% more than a foot, then everything kind of makes sense.
There you go. Insider knowledge. Somebody's gonna have like skilled layovers for that now. So like, oh hey, look, this is exactly how far this reaches. So
We
that's
yeah, I'm simplifying the story, and I don't want anyone to throw shade at our artists or our programmers or anything. I was just this sometimes just you have like a huge amount of art assets, so hopefully nobody yells at me. Everyone was working really hard
so
to
did
make the
the
game.
version of D3 we have today, did it stem from work that started at Blizzard North? Was it actually like we brought that code back and started working on it, or was it started from scratch? Brand new?
Let me
Or do you think-
give. I guess I'll give two answers. You guys both code some, right? Like you guys know how to
not much,
program.
very, very little.
I do a
Okay.
lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the thing about code is it can change, right? So, yes, it started from the same code base, but I don't want to minimize how much it changed after it, came to Blizzard Irvine. And so, code after 5-10 years doesn't look like it originally did necessarily. And so yes, but with a lot of changes.
That's cool. Interesting.
Yeah, I remember seeing like original images of like the Blizzard North D3. It was like
It looked
totally
like
foreign.
D2. It looked pretty bad,
Yeah.
honestly. Like from a graphical standpoint, But it was probably early on. But I'm just thinking like what we
Yeah.
got looks way better than what I saw in those images.
I think there were some shots of heaven. One part that really made it through. There was a phenomenal environment artist named Oscar, who made a Arrakis Crossing, and that Arrakis Crossing, the original kind of like starting point of Arrakis Crossing was made at Blizzard North by him, and then we kind of brought that forward into Diablo 3.
Do you remember
The one that shipped?
maybe the original conversation or some talking points about when the decision was made to kind of lean towards the more like cartoony than the dark in D3? Or was that kind of predated you, or was that not a conversation you were in?
The decision to make Diablo 3. So I think, okay, so first I'm going to kind of say sometimes people use cartoony as a derogatory term. Sure. So I have to kind of like stop you right there.
More
and
G-rated,
say, hey,
I guess.
Kind of using it as a derogatory term there. The look of the game was established by the art director. We had a couple different art directors who helped to establish the look of the game. And honestly, I think a lot of it comes from kind of like two places. One is this sense that it's okay. This is what Jay used to say a lot at the time is the world should have some places of beauty in it, because that gives you a sense that there's something worth fighting for. He would always use the example of the Lord of the Rings. And he says, the Lord of the Rings, at the end, you go to Mordor, but it starts in the Shire. And it starts in the Shire to establish that there's this like beautiful, peaceful place with people that you're fighting to protect. And then you go to Mordor. And so that's part of it. And then another part is also honestly just combat readability. I think there was just a desire to say, hey, we're going to have a lot of visual effects. Let's make sure that those visual effects read really well. Let's work on an art style that we believe does that. Now, are there other art styles that'll read really well? Probably. And that was the approach that the art team took.
Right on.
We'll jump off D3 in a little bit. Like I feel like we could spend the whole pod talking on D3, but
well, I know you guys both play a bunch of D3. I mean, I played a lot of D3 too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I played almost every season of Diablo 3. I still enjoy the game a lot as a player. Launch
weekend's still a good time.
Yeah.
So when you guys were designing D3, and I actually read some of this was answered in your Twitter question stuff that you did for the 10th anniversary, but I kind of want to rehash really quickly. You designed D3 as a box game.
Yeah.
That's how you guys initially designed it, right? And
yes.
then it actually shipped before you decided to make it a live service, before it was like, okay, this is live. Like when did that happen? Like when did you guys start having conversations and realize we don't want this to be a box game? Or it's not, I guess.
I don't know that there's a single point in time where I could say that it was like a conscious decision. I mean, this is like 2012, right? So like it was a different world, you know?
Yeah.
In 2012, there were plenty of box games still. The number of games that would think of as like just like those constantly updated live games just weren't as common. No, not in 2012. And so I think, you know, we always intended it for it to be a box game, and it was just sort of like, I guess the expectations of the players were like, hey, we want, you know, cool content updates, and we okay, we'll make a cool content update. But at no point in time did we ever know how long we were going to be making these content updates for, you know. I'll give you an example. When we first did Season Journey, okay, so Season Journey had you know, a bunch of steps, and when we sat down, you know, the engineers said, well, how many seasons are you going to have? And we said, oh, it's going to be infinite. We're just going to keep adding seasons forever. And they said, we can't just make the table infinite. Like there has to be like portrait frames and, you know, the cosmetic pet, and you have to populate this table. And how many do you want us to do? And we said, 12. Let's do 12. That's 12 seasons. That'll be good for 3-4 years, depending on how long the seasons are. By the way, we didn't even know how long the seasons were going to be back then, right? Like,
right, yeah.
I mean, nowadays we're like, oh yeah, about 3 or 4 months. But then back then, like there was a season that was like 2 months once.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another one that was like 4.5 or 5 or even 6. I don't remember. But like, we didn't even know how long seasons were supposed to be. And so we just got, okay, yeah, 12. And they said, okay, and then what happens after 12? Are there no more seasons? And we're like, no. Then in 12 seasons, we'll add 12 more because that's what players want. And, you know, they're like, no, because we don't, like, this is not a live service game. This is a box product game. We can't assume that there'll still be 12 more seasons, you know, more seasons after the first 12. So he said, we're going to code it so that season 13 goes back to season 1 and it just repeats. And so, and like, they're just like, you know, they're saying, hey, you know, we don't, you know, we're going to write it this way because, you know, there's just like, we still didn't know, are we supporting this ongoing, or is this a box product game and we're just making content and trying to do this? And then of course, you know, we get to season 12 and we're like, no, we're totally going to make more. So like, okay, great. Add 12 more. We're going to 24. And after 24, it's like, hey, yeah, like, you know, Frankie and company, they're like, this is going to go forever. And sure enough, you know, we are always providing content, but I don't know that there was a single point where we just kind of like made that decision. This is going, you know, on and on.
Fun fact. Did you know, and you probably do know this, but did you know that 65 million copies of D3 have been sold? 65 million. That's crazy.
That's good. Okay, so fun fact, I am familiar with that.
Not right. Here's the real number. Tell me.
Well, it is 65 million people who have played.
Oh, it's not the number of copies.
It's really close to the number of copies. In some areas or regions, like for example, in China, we released it as a free game with Reaper of Souls as an add-on purchase. Mm-hmm. And so like basically we count differently based on the region, but it's 65 million people.
That's craziness. Yeah. That's a lot.
It's a big game.
That's a lot, man.
Big game.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's at the top. It's at the top of the echelon for all time sales. I think. Like I was looking at, I don't know how accurate they are, but I was looking at Wiki of like all time ranking, and it's like top of the list.
I was a little surprised too. I I mean, I was like,
That's
I
pretty
think
cool,
the
man.
top
To
on there
have
is
your
like what,
name.
like yeah, yeah. No, it is cool. It's really humbling. I think the top one is like The Sims or something, right? Or Minecraft. Like, yeah. I mean, it's to be counted in that
Well,
elite
I
group.
think that like one of the Mario or the Wii Sports game or something, because they sold
Okay.
so many
Yeah, those
copies
are
of Wii.
huge.
Yeah, because they sold, every Wii came with a Wii Sports or something. So it's kind of like a little asterisk next to it, like on why it sold so many. But yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool, man. Pretty cool. I want
pretty cool.
to again. I could talk D3. Maybe we'll circle back around if we have time
Maybe
at the
we'll
end of the
circle
pod.
back around.
But let's jump into there's a game called Diablo Immortal. I don't know if anybody here's heard of it before, but
We've all heard
I've
of
heard
it.
of it.
You've heard of it?
You've
Nice.
heard? Oh, it's good. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
That'll make this next conversation topic easier. Yeah.
A week from today, Wyatt. A week from today, you are the game director, man. This is your baby. This is your thing.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. You guys heard of it?
I have heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think BlizzCon 18. I was there when it was announced. It was a pretty cool.
Yeah. Were you there?
You did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was there.
I was there. PChild was there.
All right, get it out. Let's just get it over with. Okay. So BlizzCon 18, we fly down, and they do a Q&A. Fluff gets on stage. Fluff grabs the mic. I was behind Fluff, and then after his reaction, I left. He asked.
You sat down. You're like, nope.
I did. I left. Fluff asked if the game was gonna strictly mobile. What did you know word for word what you said, Fluff? I'm sure you do. Okay.
Any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this strictly mobile forever? What I asked.
Okay. And then that led to the infamous "Do you not have phones" clip.
Yes.
So, let's just.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
We're gonna go there. Yeah. Oh yeah. This is where you ask Fluff how that was for him, right?
Yeah, Fluff. How'd that work out? Everybody at Blizzard hates you now, and
yeah, there was a lot of. It wasn't like necessarily backlash, but I think a lot of people took it pretty negatively. Even though my intention was just like, I came as a PC player. This is the first convention I ever went to in my life, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm a Diablo fan, and we're getting some new Diablo stuff. And then they announced, a mobile game. I was like, well, I mean, surely like it'll be playable on PC because like this is BlizzCon. And so I just asked my question, and I think, there was like a lot of like good feedback, and, but for the most part, I think most people took it pretty negatively, which,
For what it's worth, I can tell you that I did not take your question negatively at all. I thought your question was totally reasonable, totally legit. Like, I think that's a totally fair question. Like, hey, is this going to be on PC? I think when people think of negativity, honestly, either they think negatively of how I reacted, which I guess I was not prepared for the reaction that we got. And, like sometimes when you're like kind of like stressed or tense a little bit, you kind of try to like crack a little joke, but like people don't want to hear humor at a time like that, right? Like if someone comes up to you and says, hey, I just ran over your dog or something like that, like that's not the time to crack a joke. Even though it was not good. But here I am sitting on camera, and I'm like kind of like awkward. The other hard thing, and I think this is kind of, oh, by the way, I should add, I've been meaning to tell you this for a while, that I recognize that there was nothing wrong with what you said. I think you get confused with someone who came after
the other
you.
question. Yeah.
But like, I knew that we were making Diablo 2 Resurrected. And I knew that we were making Diablo 4. But the players didn't know.
Right.
And do you guys remember there was like a bunch of messages that we were putting out beforehand?
Yep.
Where it was like, we know what you're probably expecting,
Right.
but it's not what you think it's going to be, or whatever like that.
Yeah.
And that was like our way of trying to say, like, we think that you are looking for a D4 announce, but it's not. But then some people are like, oh, I guess that means we're getting D2R or something, right?
I think there was some mixed messaging that came out. Me as an attendee and a content creator at the time, like I was, heavily in the content creation. I think there was some mixed signaling that went on. And then Nevelistus at the time was the community manager, and she had, I'm sure was instructed to or worked with people to put out messaging that it kind of set up like, hey, the fires are burning hot. We have stuff to announce at BlizzCon, and I think if it wasn't intended to announce D2R or D4 at BlizzCon 18, the messaging was off point, and I think that maybe those signals got read right before BlizzCon, and you're like, oh, hold on, this is what you guys think, and that's not what we meant to make you think. So I do think that some of that happened at BlizzCon as well, which led to the audience's reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I think with hindsight, you're totally right. Like looking back with hindsight, like we could have been more clear. And then the other thing I think is, I think it's really hard to truly understand what people are expecting when like we know that D2R is coming, we know that D4 is coming, and we also know that we really want Diablo Immortal to be a great game, right? And so like we also know that this is an ambitious game that we think is going to be amazing and players are going to love. And I think you fast forward, right? And D2R is out, D4 is coming. People have played Immortal and said, "Oh, this is an amazing game." And now people are like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." But it's almost like now that people have the same context that we had back then, they're like, "Oh, I can get it." But we should have acted better knowing that players didn't have the context that we have.
Yeah, I think it changes everything having the context, right? If that Immortal announcement was following the trails of D2R or a D4, I think the reception's 180 degrees,
Yeah.
So,
or even if you just said yes to my question.
Well, to be fair, at the time, there was no intention to make a PC client. Believe me, I would have loved if it was different.
I'm starting to like kind of take credit for these things, Wyatt, because I'm like, I send him, Wyatt, you got to add controller support to DI. And then sure enough, like,
boom,
hey, PChild, here's controller support for you, bud. I'm like, thanks, man. And then it's like, hey, Wyatt, I'm emulating on BlueStacks. This sucks. Oh, here you go. How's the PC port? I'm like,
it is actually comical how many people have personally reached out to me thanking me that it's coming out. Diablo Immortal's coming out on PC, and I'm like, I had nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Is that more or less than the number of people who think that you nerfed Barbarian?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think more. But I'll take it.
Are you coming out ahead?
Yeah.
You did get Barbarian nerfed though. I was there.
Totally. For sure.
There.
But I do love that
awesome.
a lot of other companies or a lot of other people would have been like, it's not something we're currently planning, but like we'll look into it or something like that. But you were just like flat out like, no, we're not going to release it for PC. So power to you for being truthful.
Or thanks. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like good for you for being honest.
Yeah,
yeah.
As a corporation, sure.
Yeah, we should be honest.
Yeah,
that should be that's like table stakes, right?
Exactly.
You got a week until DI launches, so it's exactly a week from today, the day we're recording this pod. How excited are you, man? You've been working on this for a long time. Like, yeah. Can you say when you started? Like, how long you been doing this? I know you announced it in 18, so
yeah. So we were working on it, before the announcement. Obviously, it was Some people like so even at the announcement, there were lots of people who said that they wanted that game out, right? There were lots of people who were excited. I get messages all the time saying, "Hey, we know the announcement didn't go the way that you wanted, but I want you to know I'm super excited for this game. Please release it." And so for those people, they've been waiting for, 4 years now, and we're here. I'm super excited. The team's really excited. Gosh, I mean, what's there to say? I've been like planning out what class I'm gonna play. Do you guys know what class you're gonna play?
Yeah, for me, it's up in the air. No,
Yeah.
necromancer.
Oh,
obviously.
necromancer. Okay.
Yeah, Necro for Fluff. I'm not sure. Honestly, I would. It's probably between Monk or Demon Hunter, but I don't know. It'll probably be a game time decision. So, what about you? I know that
I got it down. Probably Monk, possibly the Wizard. I played Barbarian during Tech Alpha, and then Crusader after that, and then Necromancer during Closed Beta. So I just kind of rotate, and I play a lot of Demon Hunter internally. So I think Wizard or Monk for live.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'll be
Nice.
good.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
already.
but a lot of people on the team are really excited.
Yep. I remember playing. I remember when you demoed it at 18 and then playing it, and the skill synergies were something that I was super excited about.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, man. There's a lot of things, but it jumps out. Like I'm just rehashing and I'm kind of revisiting what your comments were about the announcement and things. And I remember playing it at BlizzCon and being like, yeah, this is actually.
I do remember
actually
that
cool.
moment from 2018 where the skill synergies were talked about. And that was like the first time I remember there was like a stirring in the crowd where people were like, gosh, I'm like kind of a mobile game. But when they showed like the skill synergies, everyone like went quiet and they're like, oh, okay, like that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just saw it.
Yeah. No, I think there was like a, what did we show? We showed like was it the Wizard Arcane
the crystal.
that you would shoot the Ray of Frost into and it would split?
Yeah, that's what I remember too. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Didn't the monk do some kind of
kicked off
jump
the
off the
wall.
wall kick or something?
Yes, and the monk
Yeah.
can still kick off the walls, and
that's pretty cool.
It's super fun. It went through a long period where you couldn't click off every wall, and so we had to like do a bunch of work to make sure you could click off more, jump off more walls. But the monk can jump off the walls, and the wizard can still split the beam through the crystal. It is awesome. I think people are going to be surprised, right? Like I think that I understand why some people don't how do I phrase this? Like, okay, I'll just say it. Like some people don't play mobile games, right? And that's okay. But I also think that someone who doesn't play mobile games will play a Switch game. And it's like, okay, well, your phone is really powerful these days.
It's way more powerful than a Switch. I promise that. So,
yeah, and I think that right now a lot of people say, "Oh, a mobile game, that's like a distraction. It's like a match 3 or something, like something that I'm just like, gonna kill 2 minutes when I'm in line at the grocery store or something like that." They don't think of it as like I'm gonna sit down and play a game for a couple hours. And I think that I would love to see Diablo Immortal like change people's perceptions of that.
Yeah.
And change how people think of that. Like
you have a good bridge set up for that though. I think the PC port that you guys added is the bridge, right? Because people that are like, I'm a PC gamer, I'm whatever, they're gonna play it. If they're into Diablo at all, they're gonna play it. It's free to play. Why are you not gonna fire it up? Like, so you're gonna install it, you're gonna play it on PC. And then once you have a good time, you're going to be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to install this on my phone. Like that's the bridge. That's going to be the bridge that gets people to install it on their phone that normally wouldn't have, is because they've played it on PC. They had a good time. Now the wife or the girlfriend's like, let's go shopping. And they're like, all right, okay, I'm going to download it on my phone.
They have those custom couches just outside Macy's.
Exactly.
Where all the lonely men are standing.
Yeah, they're all going to be playing DI now, holding the shopping bags.
Yeah. I mean, I, for one, within my community, it went from like maybe like 5% of everyone wanted to check it out to like 100% of everyone wanted to give it a shot.
Well,
So
awesome.
big.
Yeah,
So
that
can
was
you
a
talk
huge
about?
actually, wait.
Go ahead.
Was there a poll? Did we skip the poll?
Oh
did
yeah, there
skip
were
the
two polls. Yeah.
Whatever, poll, whatever.
We're so excited Wyatt was on here. Wyatt knows the podcast format better than we do. Let's go.
Well, no, I mentioned it because you tweeted out the poll and you were like, "Hey, now that Diablo Immortal is going to be on PC, are you going to play?" And I think that was like last week's pod or whatever, 2 weeks ago,
2 weeks
whatever.
ago.
You guys did the results of that poll. I don't even know what the poll was this time. I don't remember, but
POE.
but you reminded me of that. Oh, well,
Yeah,
skip it.
but can you like, so obviously, you know, you guys knew that like BlueStacks would kind of eventually get there as far as like PC playability. What kind of made you guys like, you know, we need to like have it on launch? What was kind of the driving force?
it was PChild. He said he wanted on PC.
So, I feel like I said that first, but
so we put it on PC. No, PChild was the first person to ask for it on PC.
Yes.
So we put it on PC for him.
Thank you. Thanks, Wyatt. I told everybody, nobody believed me. I'm like, listen, Wyatt and I are like this. We're like this, guys.
No, but on a serious note, a lot of people mentioned it, particularly the content creators. Fluff, I don't even know if it was like necessarily the first time you asked, but the second time you asked, I watched a YouTube video you put out. It was immediately after the technical alpha. And you were complaining about like muscle spasms from playing the technical alpha so long. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I mean, rank 1 worldwide barb, and I literally put my body through hell.
I mean, how many hours were you playing? It was a lot. It must have been a lot.
15 hours a day.
Yeah.
And
on your phone.
On my phone. Yeah. And it's
yeah.
It destroyed
me.
I
think you said, like, seriously, it would be awesome if this was on PC.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're like, okay, well, there's one data point. And then, you know, we thought, oh, maybe we'll add controller support and that'll make things better. And, you know, we added controller. And actually, some people got controller support working even during the beta. There's some controllers or Android software or something like that would like let them use controllers, but it wasn't quite right. It was almost like they'd plug in a controller and the controller would use some other software to send clicks on the screen around the touchscreen buttons, and it kind of worked, but we were like, no, we're just going to add controller support. And then people were like, hey, like PC? And so, you know, loud and clear from the closed alpha and closed beta, people wanted the PC version. And I'll tell you one of the reasons we were really reluctant. Actually, maybe I should talk about the flip side, like why did it take us so long? This is going to sound like salesmanship, but we really do want to produce a lot of content for the game after it ships. And in order for us to produce a lot of content for the game after it ships, every platform that you adds, you know, development time and having to manage all that. And we said, okay, if we add another platform, that's going to add overhead to every content patch. So it's going to slow down our content pipeline by this amount, which means everyone, because of PC, everybody has to wait X% longer to get content, right? And where we landed was that the PC client would still look like the mobile game, right? And that's why if you like fire up, like when you guys play Diablo Immortal on PC, hopefully you guys are going to play. Yeah, I think you said you're going to play. We went through class and stuff like that. Good commitment, awesome. You're going to notice, hey, this feels like a mobile game, right? Like you're gonna within 10 minutes you're gonna be like, oh, this is like a mobile game, but I'm playing it on my PC, and it's like, yeah, that's right, it is. But it's fine. It works. You're on the platform of your choice, and it still lets us develop content as fast as we wanted to before, because we're not making like custom UIs for everything.
Yeah, and that goes back to the box game design versus the live service. Like you grew this from the ground up, expecting to be a live service. You know?
We know exactly how much content we want to put out after ship. We know exactly what cadence and frequency we want. Like, how often do we do something every month? How often are we going to be able to do something every 3 months? How long does it take for us to produce a zone, a dungeon? How long does it take for us to make a new class?
This is
We
a
don't
random
want
thing
to
that just
affect that.
popped in my head, and if you can't speak to it, that's fine. Have you thought about doing weekend events or short-term events in DI? Can you talk about that if you have, or is that
Wait,
classified?
why, why was Fluffy laughing just now when you said weekend events? Are you
We
trolling
talk
me?
about it all the
Yeah, we
time.
talk
Like we
about that.
we talk about weekend events and how they're not utilized in D3, and I think that would be a huge win if they could somehow do that. But a lot of games, like people don't utilize weekend events or short
Yeah.
term events, and I think they're phenomenal for
Well,
gamers.
yes, we are planning events. We actually ran one test event during our beta. It was called the Realm of Damnation. It wasn't a very sophisticated event. It wasn't a weekend event, by the way. It ran for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Mhm.
But it was basically an event in that it had a bunch of extra goals and quests with extra rewards that you could do, and it would only last for that month and then be gone. And so we totally have plans to do stuff like that.
Yeah, awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Is there
Sorry,
like an elevator pitch for, so, there are obviously a lot of D3 boys in here right now. They've never maybe even looked at Immortal. So what can they expect to be doing? Like, as right now we grind greater rifts and, we push the leaderboard. What's like just the TLDR of what's end game look like in Diablo Immortal for those guys?
Wow, I get to do an elevator pitch. That's great. Yeah.
You put him on. He's like, I'm on the spot
Yeah.
now. Thanks.
Yeah, no, Diablo Immortal, it's an MMO, right? It's all about playing socially with other people. So we have a ton of endgame activities that are oriented around having multiple people in your group. We've got 4-player dungeons that you can do together. We've got 8-player raids that you can do together. We've got a social group called a war band, which is that group of 8, but you get extra bonuses for playing together. And then we have an endgame system called the Cycle of Strife. The Cycle of Strife involves 100-person clans. And these 100-person clans are all competing with one another to try and figure out, who is the dominant clan on the server. That dominant clan is called the Immortals. There's a ton of different game modes involved in doing so. Including one point. This is the coolest part that I think. There's a part where the 10 top shadow clans, dark clans, these are the clans that want to challenge the current Immortal clan. The 10 top dark clans send 3 representatives each to the final showdown. And the final showdown is those 3 top people from 10 clans, so a total of 30. They will do a 30v1 versus the Immortal. The Immortal player, who's top dog, transforms into a raid boss, grows in size, gets a whole new set of abilities, and basically, acts like a raid boss for these 30 people. If the 30 people take down the old Immortal, now they have to figure out who gets to be the new Immortal. So if you die during the raid fight, everyone gets resurrected, healed to full, and then a counter starts 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then the 10 teams go hostile PvP versus one another in a 30-person battle royale where the last person standing becomes the new Immortal. So I mean, there's a ton of endgame activities for people to do. And if PvP is not your thing, we've got PvE stuff too. We've got bounties, we've got contracts, we've got elder rifts, we've got the challenge rifts. There's all outdoor zone events.
If you're just that guy that's interested in lore and you want to solo play, you can, I'm sure, jump in and get some good story as well.
Yes, absolutely. By the way, I just realized that was a really long elevator pitch. That was like an elevator to the top of the Empire State Building and back down again.
That's okay.
Yeah. I was like, I need to work. Fluff asked for an elevator pitch, and I kind of gave him the slow boat down the Nile.
There's two things. I'll let you finish your pitch. I have two more DI
Well,
topics.
just now you were asking me about. I'm sorry. Before I was joking about elevator, you were actually asking me a question, right?
I don't remember. Oh, I was just saying for the lore, for like the show.
Oh, for the lore.
I was just saying there's stuff for the solo casual guys.
Yeah. Absolutely. So there's a main quest storyline. The story takes place in between. By the way, hey, thanks. I just came on the cast. You guys are like saying, "Oh, hey, let's give Wyatt a chance to just hype his new game," which I'm happy to do. There's Diablo Immortal takes place in between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3, and you can play the whole main quest storyline completely solo, or in a group if you want. And there's also a whole bunch of really cool side quests as well. So, as an example, this is my favorite side quest. There's a character named Vala, right? Like Vala is a demon hunter, and she's referenced in some of the items in Diablo 3, but you don't actually meet her. And then in Heroes of the Storm, there's a hero, the demon hunter is Vala. And so actually you learn more about Vala in Heroes of the Storm in some ways than you do in Diablo 3. And so what we've done in Diablo Immortal is when you get to the zone Shassar Sea, in addition to the main quest storyline, there's a whole side quest storyline that you can do that involves a younger Vala training to become a demon hunter with her mentor, Josen.
That's cool. Yeah,
there's all sorts of lore for people to nerd out on.
Awesome. All right, two more things on DI, and then I got another topic I want to hit you, because like we could seriously, this could be a 5-hour podcast. So, and I'm trying to respect your time.
No, it's fine. I am at the end of my workday. I came home. I'm chilling out. We'll just hang out and chat.
If this is a question, this is a big one. I think specifically, I know to our audience, right?
Okay.
And the question that I have, this hits home for me personally. How is the DI experience gonna differ between somebody that's only free to play and somebody that's got these super deep pockets and swipey every 5 minutes? How can you just talk to that for me? Like, explain what it's gonna feel like.
Sure. Okay. So first thing to remember and keep in mind is that the best way to advance your character is by playing the game, right? And so the purchases that we have available are meant to like augment your gameplay, not to replace it. So there's no way for someone to just like spend money and then not play the game. There's also parts of the game that are explicitly you must play the game. Really big examples, your gear, you have to find by playing the game. We don't have any way to spend money to find extra gear, and that includes like all the legendary effects and also all the materials to rank up your items. I know, Fluff, you played a ton of the technical alpha, so you probably remember like ranking up your item, and you would get like you'd have to you find a lot of materials which you then salvage, and you use those materials to rank up your item, and that makes it more powerful. So there's no way for money to interact with that. And we don't, and also the same goes for Paragon. Paragon is a really important system in our game. Paragon increases, it gives you some, we've kind of like added a whole tree, a Paragon tree, where you get to allocate points to your character to make it more powerful. And we've also added Paragon levels can boost the stats on the items that you find. So as your Paragon level goes up, the stats on the items that you find also go up. And we don't sell any XP boosts, gold find boosts, or item boosts, or anything like that. The main area where if you do want to spend money, there's kind of two that are mentioned in particular. The first is the Reforged Stones. So as you augment your item, it adds random properties. And if you don't like the random property that you got, you can use a Reforged Stone to re-roll the property. You can get Reforged Stones for free through normal gameplay, or you can purchase specialized Reforged Stones that like limit the pool of affixes that can roll on that bonus property. And then the other one is legendary crests. So legendary crests, there's actually two types of crests in our game. One is the rare crests, and then the other one is legendary crests. And what a crest does is you go to do an Elder Rift. Elder Rifts are kind of like Greater Rifts from Diablo 3, except the crest will add a random modifier. So if you think about like some modifiers are positive, some are negative. So a positive one might be something like cooldowns are reduced by 25%. A negative one might be like there's pools of acid all over the floor that hurt you as you're making your way through. And there's a whole bunch of positive and negative modifiers that are possible. So using a rare crest adds one modifier. Using a legendary crest adds two modifiers. And they also guarantee rewards at the end. A rare crest will guarantee you one rune or some runes, 3 runes actually, I think. And a legendary crest will guarantee you a legendary gem. And when people talk, like, I mean, I've read the messages and the forums and stuff like that. People kind of like super hyper focus on that one component of the game because they're like, hey, you know, legendary crest. And I think that that's not really the way that I see it. I see it as like there are many, many vectors to improve your character. And we wanted to, you know, have some things that people could buy. And so we said, hey, let's make it this one part of the game because we know we had to do something. And so the result is that it gets all the focus and the attention. But I think it's important to remember that there's like so many different ways to advance your character that
it's just a fraction of your character's power level. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And the other thing is that we never stop you from playing. Like you can always play the game and advance your character and get Paragon and get items and farm set items. And all of those have to be done through regular gameplay.
Got it. Yeah. There's no like, hey, you're out of energy, buy some more energy systems or something silly that you see in a lot of games. Yeah.
Right. You can just farm loot as much as you want.
Awesome. That's the question that I think a lot of people, that's going to be one of the big ones, you know?
Yeah. And I guess kind of like, I mean, I guess to just answer your question directly. So that's like a lot of context. But the biggest difference is going to be somebody who spends more money is going to have better legendary gems. And somebody who wants to be free to play, they'll still have legendary gems. And we actually took feedback from closed beta where people said, hey, it's the free to play. It's a little hard to actually get as many legendary gems. We actually buffed it since beta to make it easier for a person who doesn't spend money to get legendary gems. But I mean, the majority of your power actually comes from all those other places. Like if you have a bunch of legendary gems, but you don't have the gear and you don't have the Paragon, it's useless.
Yeah. Got it. Awesome. The last thing I wanted, Fluff, can you throw the clip up from the pod?
Yeah. Oh boy. What's this?
Okay. We're just going to watch the clip and then we'll talk.
You guys won't be able to hear it.
Okay.
You won't be able to hear it though, Wyatt, but you'll see it and you'll know what it is.
Okay.
Sorry for doing this to you.
Gotcha.
And we're ignoring the fact that Diablo Immortal comes out in a few weeks, by the way, guys. That's not a game.
Oh yeah, I know.
Okay.
Oh, you guys are talking over it. Hang on.
And we're ignoring the fact
Sorry, was
that
I
Diablo
talking during it? Because
Immortal
I
comes out in a
can't
few
hear it, but
hang on.
Let me mute myself.
2 seconds.
And we're ignoring the fact that Diablo Immortal comes out in a few weeks, by the way, guys. That's not a game. We're going to play Path of Exile. But
yeah, so Chris Wilson basically says, we're ignoring the fact that Immortal's coming out in 2 weeks. It's not even a game, basically, is what he says.
So this is...
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. I just thoughts? Like, you know, what do you...
Yeah, so actually, fun fact. I didn't see that when it aired because it kind of aired in the middle of the day and I was working. But I got an email from Chris. And the email from Chris, gosh, I wonder if I could pull it up. Let me
just so people know, I asked Wyatt if I was I didn't throw him under the bus right now because people are already assuming that I'm throwing him under the bus.
No, it's fine. I should have just. You know what? I won't quote him direct. No, here we go. He basically wrote me an email and said that he apologized. He said he tried to make a joke about how people were watching should play PoE instead. And he basically said that he regretted saying that. And he just wanted to apologize. And he said, "Hey, can you extend my apology to the team?" So I forwarded his email to the team. And, I was sitting there thinking, it would be pretty hypocritical for me to be upset at someone for saying something publicly that they later regret. so, there's no hard feelings. I like Chris. I think he's a cool guy. We've actually met up a couple times to like talk and chat at GDC. I think back in like 2014 or something like that, we met up in San Francisco and had breakfast together. And like, he's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
I think that there's a common perception from players. It's almost like, I don't know, like, okay, I'm not a sports guy. I'm going to make a sports analogy, which is super dangerous when I'm not a sports guy. But
none of us are going to be able to
kind of
follow
imagine.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
You kind of like imagine that like players on rival teams don't like each other, but then you find out that they do. Like maybe they even went to college together or like they, team swaps and stuff like that. So like even with like professional rivalries and stuff like that, like the industry, a lot of us are, friends with one another and we want each other to succeed. So yeah, no, it's totally cool. It was nice of Chris to drop that note.
Yeah,
It wasn't
there's
necessary.
context behind it too, because I know like he talked about Cyberpunk dropping during one of the league launches and that decimated his numbers or would have or something. So I think there's context that the PoE community understands that a lot of people don't as well. Like I think his joke was even aimed at that, but it out of context, it just seems like he's being mean. But anyway,
I think making games is really hard. Talking publicly without ever messing up is really hard.
Oh yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah. It's not even what we do primarily. Like, my main job is a game developer. Chris's main job is a game developer. We happen to do these other things as well. Mistakes are made. It's all good.
Yeah.
I would still love to, see and hang out with Chris again next time.
Like, yeah.
Hey, before we jump off of the Immortal subject, is there do you have any behind the scenes stories, tidbits, anything that you wanted to throw out? You don't have to if you don't have something off the top of your head, but I figured, this is a good opportunity to any development stories or anything that was funny to share, If you don't, then
probably the biggest is like COVID, right? Like, who
true.
hasn't that affected, right? That was not expected when we started Immortal, and I don't know how COVID has affected you guys, but wow,
changed my life 100%.
going in the office, yeah. And then now we're like making a game through COVID. It's been challenging, but I don't know about you guys, but sometimes you get like really good experiences working online too, like being able to screen share and stuff like that is like collaborating with friends, or like sometimes you're in those big Zoom meetings with like 30 people and people can chat and people are like, hey, actually in a lot of ways this is better than meeting in person. So I don't know if you guys have those experiences.
I actually personally, for me, it's been life changing, and I love it. Like I don't love COVID, but I love where I've ended up working from home and not in the office. It's been a great work life balance, and to be honest, I'm more productive than I was at the office too, because I have a hard time shutting it down. Like I feel like I'm kind of almost always on, but at the same time, when I can take breaks in the middle of it. Like I'll work for a couple hours and then I'll take a little break, and then I'll work for a couple hours and take a little break, and I'll just do that. But it'll be 10 o'clock at night and I'm still answering emails sometimes, and it's like before it was like once I left the office, I was done. Like, I'm checked out until the next day. So
that's a weird thing. It's like it's harder to maintain separation between work and home when you're home, right? Do you use the same computer for?
I do. Well, a different machine, but the same desk, and it all routes I just switch inputs on the monitors, right?
You have like
So,
a KVM.
yeah, yep. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
yeah.
4, so I can put them wherever I want. So I usually have 2 working and 2 play and whatever. So
It's too easy to answer work emails at 10 p.m.
yeah, you'll see it come in and you're like, it's 10, but I know the answer. Hold on, and then you just shoot it off. But
Yeah.
kind of like you were saying, like you were actually working right before the pod, So that's why we scheduled this pod a little bit later than our normal start time, is because
Yeah.
and so do you have time zone issues? Like I deal with that personally a lot with my office. Is like I'm working with people around the world now, and it's
Yeah.
like sometimes they're like it's midnight for me right now. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. So
Yeah, we're developing Diablo Immortal in partnership with NetEase.
mhm.
And so our 6 p.m. is like their 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. I mean, it changes actually based on daylight savings because we have daylight savings, but they don't. So it's like 9 or 10. So yeah, sometimes we start a meeting at 5 or 6 and we chat with them and then that's the end of our workday.
That's awesome.
Pez Radar actually
Who?
sent me I know who's Pez Radar.
Who's
Yeah,
Pez?
who's that guy?
I don't know
You
who
guys
that
disavow. He sent me
Yeah.
actually. He found the email for me. I won't read you the whole thing, but the very last thing that Chris said, it was really really sweet. He said, "I hope your launch goes really well. You guys have worked really hard for a long time, and I can't wait to play it." So,
Nice.
I play POE.
Yeah.
He'll play Immortal. I think the world needs more good games. There's a term sometimes people use, frenemies. I don't know if you've heard that. I don't know.
Sure.
It's a made up word. So I mean, yeah, of course, the companies are competing, but the developers are often friends, and yeah, I'm glad that he'll play the game.
I think it's silly to assume or even expect that people don't play each other's games.
Oh,
Like
right, yeah. I mean, there's
it's
so many
crazy.
games
It's like
out there.
A, they're fun and good. Like just more than one company can make a good game, and 2, like you also want, as a competitor, you want to see like you
Yeah.
don't think that Pepsi tastes Coke and like, ooh, this is pretty good. Let's
Yeah.
like how did they do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
you'd never think that a movie director doesn't watch other people's
yeah,
movies.
you're
That
like,
would
oh
be
man, the way
ridiculous.
he filmed that scene was amazing. I'm gonna steal that when I do my movie. Like it doesn't make sense to me that there's this big misconception that you know, like Blizzard employees could never play PoE or whatever, Grim Dawn or whatever game. Not
I've
even-
got one more Immortal question actually. Were there like big lessons you guys learned from Diablo 3 that you were able to kind of correct in Immortal? Do you
Yes.
think? Okay.
I have one I love to say because it actually means a lot to me. I tweeted about this too, but in case people didn't catch that, I'll repeat it right here. I regret the way skill runes played out. So in Diablo 3, you get these skill runes. I kind of go into a lot of detail on the Twitter thread. I won't beat a dead horse here, but basically giving people all those runes as you level up, I don't think it played out very well. You don't use most of the runes. Like you get like, what is it, like 20, 21, 22. Like each class has 21 to 25 skills in Diablo 3, 5 rune modifications. Plus you have to have the unruned skill, but who uses unruned skills?
Right.
So there's all this like design and art that goes nowhere. It's like, and so you're talking like 120-ish skills that, and people use like, I don't know, 15 on their level up experience. What a waste, right?
If that, yeah.
We should have made all of those legendary items. It should have just been a skill, and then we drop you some legendaries. And the other thing about making them runes is all the runes get compared to one another because they would have, the assumption is that they'd be equal in power, right? You can't have one rune be better than another rune because you're going to be choosing from all of them, which is also weird because one of them unlocks at a higher level, which maybe kind of sets the expectation that it's better. Otherwise, why would you switch to it? If they're legendary items, you could just say, hey, this one you got early, it's common, it changes, but it's not as good. This legendary, rune effect power is more powerful. We could tune the numbers up, make it more rare, and say that's what you find later and you upgrade into. And so that's what we're doing with Diablo Immortal.
Yeah,
Diablo Immortal day 1, I said no skill runes, We're going to push all of it into legendary powers instead.
That's awesome. I actually agree with that. And then you can also make skills that aren't used, just up the numbers on the legendary effects, or have the effect make, like, hey, this skill hasn't been used in a long time. Next season, let's put a new legendary out that uses that skill or something.
Yeah, totally. Like the rune system said every skill has 5 runes. And I was like, well, some skills don't deserve 5 runes, right?
Mhm.
And so that was a little weird. I mean, we kind of stretch a little bit. The example, okay, in retrospect, I think it turned out fine, but at the time, people were like, why does teleport need 5 runes? And then like, oh, well, here's a really cool rune for teleport that makes it so that if you use the skill within 3 more seconds, you go back to where you came from. And it's like, well, who uses that rune? No one, right? But like, we had to have more ideas for the teleport rune. If they're legendary items, it's like, okay, how many cool teleport effects can we think of? 3. Great. There'll be 3 teleport legendaries. We're done. We don't have to make more. Some other skill needs 8 legendaries because you have so many cool ideas for it. Great. We can do that.
Yep. Awesome. All right. I'm going to switch topics on us.
You
All right.
You started. This is where Fluff's going to zone out. He's going
Oh, you're gonna talk about WoW? Oh,
This
no.
is for me.
Yeah.
Wyatt, you started. Are you at one point were on the WoW team? Now I'm an avid World of Warcraft player. I love it. 30,000
we
hours
talked a little
plus.
bit on the side actually about WoW.
Yeah, about WoW. So, all right, tell me about, how did you get on the WoW team, and just tell me some stories. Tell me some experiences there.
Yeah. So I mentioned that Blizzard North closed down. That was like circa 2004, 2005. I don't remember exactly. And they offered jobs to people to come down. I told them, I was playing World of Warcraft at the time, but kind of like not super hardcore. And I told them one of my all-time favorite Blizzard games is StarCraft. I want to work on StarCraft. And StarCraft 2 was being made at the time. So they brought me down and I got put in StarCraft 2. About 2 weeks in, they say, Wyatt, we know we told you that you could work on StarCraft 2, but World of Warcraft is really taking off and we can't make content fast enough. We need you to head over there and make some raid bosses. And I was like, you got it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I was like, sure, let's do it. Let's do it. So, by the way, I wanted to work on Diablo 3, but they wanted to put together a team first. I mentioned before we needed an art director, we needed a new game director. We hadn't hired Jay yet. We needed we needed a bunch of stuff in place because we had to staff up the Diablo 3 team again. So I was kind of like looking for stuff to do while waiting for the Diablo 3 team to get up and running again.
Nice.
So I went to World of Warcraft. This is after Blackwing Lair had shipped. And I don't know, Fluff, this is all just going over Fluff's head, like Blackwing Lair, what's that? So Vanilla basically had a couple raid tiers, right? They had Molten Core first, Blackwing Lair, Zul'Gurub came out, and then there was AQ20 and AQ40. And so that's when I got brought over. They said, hey, can you help out with AQ20 and AQ40? So I worked on raid boss design for both. I did some of the trash as well.
Nice.
And then I worked on Naxxramas. And then I did some stuff for Burning Crusade. On AQ20, do you want the specifics?
You don't have to. I'll nerd out and talk WoW all day. So as much as you want to share, but
let me give you the 1 minute summary.
Okay.
We'll make it 1 minute. I did Brew the Gorger in AQ20.
That's nice.
AQ40. Did you ever raid AQ40?
I did. I've done every raid in WoW. So yes.
Do you remember? Oh, okay. Here's a fun story. Do you remember the Anubisath Sentinels that were at the very entrance of AQ40, where they had these different powers, like a ring or a meteor? And what would happen is when one of them died, they gave their power to the other 3.
I do actually, yeah. And yeah, it was random too, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was actually an idea that we had for monsters in Diablo. So
Okay.
you know how like in Diablo you have champion monsters and rare monsters with affixes?
Yep.
So we had this idea at Blizzard North for what we called set monsters. Because we're like, well, items have magic and rare and legendary, and monsters are magic and rare and legendary, unique.
Mm.
How about set monsters? Kind of like set items. And the idea was, oh, well, what would a set monster do? Oh, maybe when you encounter a pack of set monsters, imagine that you're playing Diablo 3. I'm just going to translate the whole thing into Diablo 3 terms. You come across 3 set monsters. One of them has Molten, another one has, Desecrator, and another one has Frozen. But every time you kill one of them, they heal the other 2 and give their affix to the other 2 in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you kill one of those, then it shares its affix and heals the third. So that was actually an idea that we were playing around with for Diablo 3. And so when I was doing trash for AQ40, I said, "Oh, we're gonna do that." So,
Right.
so
You just
that's how
led me
that
into
trash
another
worked.
question.
Yeah.
Who came up with Juggernaut, and can we slap him?
Yeah.
Wyatt, listen, please say it wasn't you. Like, just say it wasn't you. You don't have to tell me a name. Just say it wasn't you.
Was it Frankie? I bet Frankie.
We're not gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
Everything's
It
a
was
team
you,
effort.
Wyatt. Oh my gosh, come on.
Okay. Okay. So for Juggernaut, here's the main problem with Juggernaut is that you won't take credit for Juggernaut.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
You're like trying to trap me. This is terrible.
No, we
But
could leave
the
it
problem
alone.
with Juggernaut is that you're really, I think Juggernaut is actually a pretty cool idea in general for a game that was in a CC heavy environment. So like in that Juggernaut, there's like a bunch of things that, oh my God, this is okay. Oh my goodness, you're gonna make me have to wind up.
I got him in the hot seat. It's okay, Wyatt. You don't have to. You don't have to justify.
No, it's fine. At the time that we were releasing Juggernaut, the meta was about perma CCing
I remember
monsters.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that in a different context where you couldn't skip packs completely, that like there's kind of a couple problems. One, we didn't fully expect that people were just going to opt to skip the pack completely. In retrospect, we should have realized that. And the second is that we didn't fully account for the fact that around the same time, we also made a bunch of legendary properties that allowed you to do way more damage to CC'd enemies. Like there's like that Crusader one where if the enemy is blinded, you do triple damage. And then all of a sudden now, well, I can't blind them. And it's like, well, I mean, maybe the best solution should have been to say, well, you still get to do triple damage if the blind effect is on them, even though the monster isn't affected by the blind. I don't know. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. But anyway, sorry about Juggernaut. But the Anubisaths, those were basically set monsters. Anyway, I did now fast forward. I said it was going to be a 1-minute summary, but then I started talking about set monsters. But I thought you'd be interested to hear a Diablo 3 reference. I did Prophet Scarum. I did Fankris. I did Twin Emperors.
Yeah, Twin Emperors.
Yeah. Twin Emperors, that was a fun fight.
Yeah.
And then later on,
you did Patchwork, right? Too.
Yeah. So then Naxxramas, right? So after AQ40 was Patchwork. Was Naxxramas, and in Naxxramas I did all of the Death Knight wing. So I did Patchwork and I did Grobulus in the Plague wing. These are, by the way, I don't know if they called it that publicly, but those are our internal names. We had like
they did.
Death Knight
wing, Plague wing. I think they did. Yeah. I know what you mean when you say that though. So I think they did.
Yeah, I didn't do anything in the Spider wing. I did, like I think the first boss, Instructor Resuvius. So that, and then Gothic the Harvester, and then the Four Horsemen over in
Four Horsemen was awesome.
And then cool, awesome.
Yeah.
And then on the other wing, I did Patchwork and Grobulus. And then what was that? What's the last wing? I know up above there's Saffron and then KT.
Yeah.
I don't remember the fourth wing. I'm not thinking of.
No, it's been way too many years.
Oh my goodness, Google will save me, right?
Yeah, That's pretty cool though. Patchwork is still, I don't know what work you did on Patch, but that became the iconic damage check. Like that's your
Yes.
tank and spank damage check boss, and that term is still used in WoW today. Like today, it's like they'll describe things like it's patchwork, and that
Right.
that means it's a tank and spank, and you gotta have it's a damage check. Like you better be able to
Yeah.
pump.
Yeah, you want to nerd out on patchwork a little bit? By the
Yeah,
way, I
sure.
looked it up real fast. It was Lotheb. Lotheb, by the way, did not turn out the way I wanted. Lotheb is the last boss of the Plague Wing, and his whole stick was that. So at the time, in reflection, a lot of my design at the time was playing around with tanking mechanics. If you think about like you kind of mentioned this, like tank and spank, right?
Mhm.
And so a lot of the fights that I designed at the time were really kind of like, in retrospect, they were exploring like what does tanking mean. And so like Twin Emps is like a tank switch. Boo the
Mhm.
Gorger has no tank, right? He kind of just fixates on people.
Yeah.
Four Horsemen has a bunch of tank rotation stuff. And then Lotheb was a experiment on, okay, what happens when healers can't really heal? And everyone just kind of does these consumables instead.
Yeah.
So for Patchwork, Patchwork actually came from a bunch of us talking about, how we have all these boss mechanics that we're trying to come up with. And I think it was actually Kaplan. He came up and said, hey, Jeff Kaplan, who was the lead at the time of the Encounter design team. He said, back in the EverQuest days, there was this boss. Did you play EverQuest?
I did.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I did not.
Okay.
But Jeff said that there was this boss called the Avatar of War. Does that mean anything to you? Okay. So Kaplan said, "What we make all these complex mechanics for our bosses, but back in the EQ days, who the scariest boss was the Avatar of War, because all it would do is walk up to you and beat your face in, and that's all we have to do." And so we said, you know what, we're going to do that. We're going to make a boss that just does that. And what happened is I made Patchwork, but we ran into a problem right away, which was we couldn't emulate that EverQuest experience because even when Patchwork was doing tons and tons of damage, the healers were just healing through it. They were just like, woo, woo, woo. Like when the boss is only doing damage to only the tank, with a rate of like 13 healers, you could still keep the tank up just fine. Mm-hmm. So that's where we came up with the Hateful Strike mechanic, where Patchwork will actually rotate his damage among 4 tanks, because we're like, the only way to stress out 13 healers is to just do massive damage to 4 tanks at a time.
Yeah.
And that's
and
it turned out to be like a little bit
the rage timer in there too, I believe. It's been a long time since I've done them, but he had the rage timer too, which is where the DPS check came in.
Yep.
It's like,
actually, so
Naxxramas
Naxxramas actually had a lot of firsts. Naxxramas was the first one to have like a truly like aggressive and rage timer. That again came from this. It was inspired by that Avatar of War to say, hey, we want DPS to matter. I mean, Ragnaros kind of had a DPS check as well. You had like 2 minutes and then you're another phase, but like you're just running out of people. I can't remember the Rag fight enough to know, but there was a total DPS check on Rag as well. I remember that.
Yeah.
But we said, no, let's make another boss with an actual DPS check. Because people were just kind of like, there was like some people who were theory crafting, oh, you can basically beat any boss with 39 healers and 1 tank. It's just going to take 2 hours, right? Yeah. But we're like, no, you're going to have a DPS check. And that just kind of like said, hey, DPS checks are really good for testing DPS later on.
Yeah. So I think it's really cool you had your hand in that, because to me, he's one of the most memorable bosses, and he's one of the most mechanic simple bosses there is. But it's just like, all right, boys, I just remember like, go, 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 we almost got him, push, 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 and then
Yeah.
boom, enrage timer, and you're like, oh, and we're so close, you know, to getting him.
Well, here's a
So,
question. Was your first kill before or after the enrage timer? I mean, some people like enrage started and people are like shooting off frost
probably
bolts as
after,
they're
yeah, like
falling.
he's smacking
Yeah.
people and killing
Uh-huh.
everybody, yeah.
And
But
he's running up and down the hallway.
yep, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that
it's
was
just a
that's an
good time, man.
adrenaline kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, like I said, I could talk WoW all day. I know a lot of the audience probably doesn't play it, so I, Fluff was pretty ecstatic about that. That's like me listening to him talk POE for a couple hours.
All right.
That's all, man. That's all I had for the games. We can, unless Fluff, you had any other questions you want to hit? If not, we're gonna jump into the Fluff hates, PChild loves / Wyatt hates loves. I don't know if you have something you want to contribute, but
Sure.
what do you got, Fluff? What are you hating on today?
A couple of my real life friends. So I was just
Okay.
down in Mexico. We did like a guy's trip.
You're already lying. We don't have friends.
True. We did like a guy's trip down in Mexico, and last night I had like planned this like it's kind of like an exclusive place, and I got us all tickets, and these are like expensive tickets, and you can't like go buy on the internet these tickets. You have to like know someone, and I couldn't really figure out a good way to describe it to them. So it's like a beach / jungle rave almost is how I described it. And so two of the guys towards the end of the trip, it's the last night of the trip, they're like, oh, well, it's not really our scene, so like we're not gonna go. And I'm like, wow, like to me I don't really understand that, because like, like why say no? You're in a different country, you're like gonna sit at home in the Airbnb and just not go. A little close-minded. But anyways, and the third guy was like, well, I'm here, kind of that same mentality. He's like, it doesn't sound like my scene at all, but I'm gonna go. And so we all end up going, and he's like, this is like the coolest thing I've ever fucking done in my life. Like, you explained this terribly, and the other two guys ended up not experiencing it all. But like, I guess it's just that's my Fluff hates. It's just like, have an open mind. You know what I mean? Like,
Try new stuff.
yeah.
Okay. All right. For me, I'll let you wrap the segment up, Wyatt, because I'm sure yours is probably gonna be more interesting. My
Mine's not
loves.
gonna be interesting.
So I finished. I have a couple. Fluff and I need to do a movie pod because we both like to critique movies. And I'm not going to spoil anything if you haven't seen it yet. I saw Doctor Strange. I don't know if we've talked about that on the pod since I've seen it.
Mm-mm.
Did you?
The
Are you
multiverse.
Are you a Marvel movie fan, Wyatt, or no?
I do watch a lot of them. I don't know if I'd say I'm a fan,
Okay.
and yet I've watched. Yet I watch all of them. So
All of them?
what does
Yeah.
that mean, right?
I don't know. It was, I'll save my critique for a couple more weeks. We can hit it in case somebody hasn't seen it yet. But I did finish Halo. I finished the Halo series on Paramount, and I actually liked it. I mean, of course, it wasn't perfect. There were some things that I'm like, why did you guys do this? But I liked it, man. If you guys haven't seen the Halo series and you're into sci-fi stuff, check it out. It was pretty cool, And then on top of that, I finally broke one of the perks I have from working at Microsoft is I got my hands on an Xbox Series X, and I haven't played it. It's been sitting on the shelf for months. So I hooked it up the other day and threw Game Pass on it, and I was like, okay, man, there's a bunch of games on Game Pass. I'm like, let me try some of these out, and I've been having a good time with it. So I don't know,
Cool.
enjoying the Xbox.
I
What do you
just got Game Pass myself a couple months ago. There was like a promotion on Discord where if you had a Nitro subscription, you could get some Game Pass. And so I signed
cool.
up and I was like, this is cool. Yeah.
It is a pretty cool service. I even tried their Cloud Play feature recently, and it was like not perfect, but if I wanted to test a game, it saved me from downloading a game before, because most of the games you can download or Cloud Play, and it's like, well, this could maybe be cool. Let's check this out, and I Cloud Play it for 10 minutes, and if it's good, then I'll like, okay, I'm gonna download it. If not,
I played Forza that way. Because I didn't want to download the whole thing, and I was like, "Oh, I'll Cloud Play this."
Yeah,
and it was fine. I mean, it gave me a sense of the game. And I'm not really into driving games, but I was really surprised. Like, you'd expect like I don't know, in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm sure the latency is going to ruin the game and it's not going to feel responsive. But I was like, okay, maybe if you were trying really hard, but I kind of feel like it's like, do you remember when like CDs first came out, MP3s first came out, and people were like, oh, it's like 44,000 hertz. That's not quite enough.
good
You know,
quality,
I'm going to be able to tell it's not as good. And it's like, no, you can't. Like, maybe if you're a total audiophile, you can tell. I feel like, yeah, I was really impressed by Forza and the cloud play.
Forza's fun. I actually play that game a lot. You're dating us, by the way, by talking about CDs and MP3s. You know, I'm just
It's not that
throwing
long
out.
ago, is it? What, like 2-3 years ago?
No, we're old, Wyatt. CDs? That's like our parents talking about 8-track players in their cars and stuff. You know?
Yeah, or, I mean, maybe I should be saying, oh, remember when there were DVDs?
Yeah.
Remember?
Wait,
Do you remember Blu-rays?
VHS? What?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So, sorry, I think I might have cut off your segment talking about Game Pass. But what did you love?
I was going to ask you if you have Game Pass recommendations, like what you're playing on Game Pass right now.
Halo's on there if you're looking for they have the campaign on there if you're into shooters at all. Forza I think is fantastic, but I'm a car guy, so and then I don't know, man. There's honestly so many things. There's Final Fantasies. Minecraft Dungeons is on there if you want. Fluff and I checked that one out when it dropped. It was simple, but there's a lot.
Yeah, I played Minecraft. I didn't have Game Pass at the time, so I bought Minecraft Dungeons. It was a good couch co-op game too. I played that with a family.
Yeah, it's cool. I think it's a good introductory ARPG for kids. I think it could help, kind of. Oh, this is what ARPGs can, at a basic level can be. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's jump.
Wait, we didn't hear Wyatt's hates, did we?
But he has to do a hates.
Yeah,
Wyatt's loves. Wyatt's loves.
Oh, I'll answer your hates. It's Chris Wilson, right? I'm kidding.
Oh gosh.
I love the excitement before a game launch. As a player. I mean, do you guys? I guess you guys should tell me. Also, okay. It's Wyatt loves. So let me do me first. I love like planning out how I'm gonna play. Making sure I got the kitchen stocked.
Yeah.
Thinking about like coordinating with my friends. We dropped a blog this morning listing all the names of the servers. So you have to like talk to your friends and find out what server they're going to be on and all that stuff. I don't know, there's just a lot of excitement. So I would say I love the excitement that surrounds a game launch. But I guess that one's very, very like let me actually back up and give you one that's not about like Diablo. I love podcasts. Yeah, thanks for having me. I listen to a lot of podcasts, actually.
Nice.
I listen to podcasts. What'd you say?
I just said nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you were like making fun of something. No, I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Who am I listening to right now a lot? Oh my goodness. Lex Friedman. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Lex Friedman podcast. Man, I'm like just really falling in love with the Lex Friedman podcast. That's so good.
Yeah, you kind of jogged my memory. My brother turned me on to Audible. Have you ever listened to books on Audible?
Oh, like before? Books on tape?
Yeah. I didn't think it would be my thing, right? Like, I've read books in the past, but I'm not an avid reader. I don't like read a book or two a month like a lot of people are, even more. But our brother was like, check this out. And I'm like, dude, I don't think this is my thing. Like, I was straight up like, I'm not really interested, man. And he kept pushing me. And then so I had this work trip last week where I had to, fly and travel and do all this. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to have some downtime. I was like, all right, I'll do it. I want a sci-fi book. Like, give me something good. Don't screw this up. This is like your one shot to hook me on Audible. And he's like, okay. So he told me to check out this book called Project Hail Mary. It's a sci-fi novel thing. And so I'm like, okay. So I turn it on. I listen to the first chapter or two, And by the end, chapter 1, I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is my thing. By the end of chapter 2, I was like, done. All right, let's go. Next chapter, next chapter, next chapter. And so
Nice.
I did this whole thing, and it's like completely, this isn't my thing, but it turned out that I actually enjoyed it. So pretty cool.
I have done a couple books on tape or Audible. I guess they used to. See, I'm dating myself again. Books on tape. What's that?
What's that?
Audiobook. I think it depends a lot on who it's being read by. I tried to do Game of Thrones as a audiobook, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, not to mention, there's all these names of places and people, and I'm just like, whoosh, like forget it. But then I recently listened to a book called Atomic Habits, which I borrowed from the library. So I don't do Audible, but my wife actually pointed out that the public library has audiobooks that you can sign up.
That is cool.
You can just you can do it on your phone and just like I use an app called Libby or something like that. And you can basically say, hey, I want to sign up a book from the public library, and it's free. So that's what I do.
It's pretty cool. The reason I bring it up is just like he's been telling me this for years, and I've been like, dude, that's not my thing. Like, I'm good. Like, leave me alone. Stop bugging me. And so I finally gave in, and I was like, I was like, you're right. I was wrong. This is pretty cool. So
yeah. Also, I mean, I don't know. Do you listen to stuff while you're like playing Diablo or WoW or whatever? Like,
yeah, but it's hard for me to focus on it though. Like, if I'm listening to like these audiobooks, it's like I want to pay attention to the story, and then I'll stop working. I tried to listen to it while I was working, and then I found myself not working. I'm literally just listening to the book. So usually when I play a game, I just throw music in the background, So or like you said, like you can throw a stream or a pod or something that's not as intensive.
Yeah. Where it's like it's okay if your mind blanks out for a couple minutes. Yeah. Right. Whereas if it's a book, it's like, wait, what? You have to
rewind.
Yeah.
So,
Wyatt, what's your go-to snack for like an opening night of a game? You're gonna be going hard. What are you snacking on?
Beef jerky.
Beef jerky.
Okay.
Yeah. You?
Oh man. I mean, depends on what, like, if I'm dieting or not. If I'm not, like, there's a whole group of things I would eat. But
let's say not dieting. Give us the good stuff.
Yeah, like, gotta have some pizza delivered. You gotta have like dark chocolate Kit Kats, maybe some mint chip ice cream, the Twizzlers filled twists. Those are fantastic. Frozen hot dogs.
You made me eat a Twizzler filled twist before. They're not bad.
Yeah.
We
already know.
You know what? Actually, you just reminded me one of my favorite new meta podcast episodes. Can you guess? I mean, we're gonna talk about snacking here. Have you guys ever heard of something called the Death Nut Challenge?
Oh my god. Let's not.
Like where PChild almost died. Yeah,
I almost died. Like I'm not joking. I really think I would have died if I ate that last one.
Do you think you would have had?
I really do. I 100%.
I was legitimately worried for sure.
I was legitimately worried. Like if we weren't on the podcast and I wasn't worried about like, if we were just non-live, I would have been like, call an ambulance. I probably would have. So
I wasn't worried because I was watching the recording on YouTube, so I knew that you were alive. I knew you made it. Spoilers. PChild lives.
My wife was. I realized my wife was a savage that day too. She was like,
"Why'd you finish it? Half of your face isn't working." She's like, "Yeah, you should have done it.
You should have done it. You should have ate the last one." She's like, "I've never taken you on a challenge show." I'm like, "Good. I don't want to go."
Oh, when you said that she's a savage, I thought you meant that she ate the fifth nut or something.
No, she was like giving me a hard time because I didn't do it. She was like live. She was watching live and she was like, eat it, like do it. And like, calling me a wimp in not so nice terms. So I'm like, listen, you don't understand. Like you don't understand.
No one understands.
It was
so funny.
Insane. My son was going to buy it and like do it with his friends. He's like, after he watched it, he's like, oh, I want to do that. I'm like, no, you don't. I promise you don't. Oh,
I don't know. I feel like I want to. I like spicy food. So
man,
now,
I do too.
Hey, well, listen, if you want to do Death Nut Challenge 3.0 is out now.
Yeah.
I'll film it. I'm not going to participate, but next BlizzCon or something,
episode 200,
we can make that happen. So,
what do you snack up on? What do you
frozen hot dogs.
Me?
frozen up.
No, man. So if it's game night and I'm not dieting or anything, like Fluff said, I'm a Subway guy. I know it sounds really. I love Subway, man. I get a
Okay.
I'll go to Subway and I'll buy a couple subs, a couple footlongs, and I'll
Yeah.
throw them in the
Like
fridge.
what?
And
Like
then when you're
meatball club,
no club, just
chicken club.
just like a Subway club, yeah. And then I just
Yeah.
grab it and just munch on it.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yeah,
and
I can
really
get
that's
behind
it.
that.
Yeah, and then pizza's always a good one too. You know, it's nice to have a pie.
Yeah.
We're gonna jump into some Twitter questions. If you guys,
Do you want to hit the
wanna
polls that
submit-
we never hit?
Oh yeah, we can.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, let's do it. Let me pull them up. Hang on.
You guys ever go to those? You know, there's like a bunch of new pizza places where it's almost like a Chipotle type.
Yeah.
Where like you ask them to put the toppings on and then they cook it in like 6 minutes
Right.
and it comes out. Have you ever done those
Yeah,
places?
Yeah.
like a pizza bar.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Definitely
I
not
have,
as good
but
as the
it-
real thing, but
yeah. It's
I love it.
Really?
Oh, my wife and I have been doing that so much. Like during COVID, that was like one of our
Okay.
top go-to places if we wanted something.
yeah. We have a specialty St. Louis style pizza that I grew up on, so I love it. So
It's
that's
awful.
usually
What's
my
a St.
go-to.
Louis
Fluff-
pizza?
it's
It's
awful.
it's called Emos, but it's like a thin crust pizza.
Listen, let
like
me
Fluff's
describe
over
this
here,
pizza.
like, laughing.
It is
It's amazing.
I can only describe it as like a saltine cracker, and they sprinkle like it's not even real cheese. It's a powder that
No,
melts.
it's Provel. It's a real cheese.
No, it's not a
It's
real
Provel.
cheese. It's Provel
Listen,
is
you-
not
when
the
you
cheese
came
that goes
over,
on
when you
Emos.
came over, I bought some, and you ate like a whole pizza, dude.
Listen, I was
you loved
hungry,
it.
but ugh,
You ate a whole pizza.
there's
by
so much
itself.
better
You
pizzas in the
hungry.
world. Anyways,
No.
But yeah,
One of these days, I want to do a pizza tour.
yeah, that'd be
Just
dope.
go to all the different cities and try all the different pizzas.
So new meta podcast from 2 weeks ago. What are your thoughts on the upcoming Sentinel expansion for Path of Exile? Option 1, oh my god, poggers. Option 2, meh. Option 3, no balance updates, WTF. And option 4, dog shit is. And coming in at oh my god, poggers, winning at 33.8% of the vote, with meh just behind.
Barely squeaking out that W.
P, I know you've played a ton of Sentinel.
Yeah, the Sentinels don't really do a lot for the leveling experience. It's kind of weird because Chris, acted like they would.
I like
but,
that Wyatt Cheng is probably infinitely more like experienced in Path of Exile than a co-host of an ARPG podcast.
He develops ARPG.
You
I'm
are
not
a co-host on an ARPG podcast. You should know.
I don't write the code for
All right.
ARPGs.
All
though.
right.
I play
So
too much WoW.
wait, was that sarcasm earlier? Have you played Sentinel League?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I haven't. I've played a couple leagues of PoE. It just isn't my thing. I understand why people like it, but it doesn't hook me enough to make me want to not play other games. Like basically WoW.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, I could play PoE right now, or I could play WoW, and WoW still wins for me.
That makes sense.
Have you tried Sentinel?
I like it though. I don't think it's a bad game.
Hey, you don't have to convince me. I'm happy to say that WoW's a great game. Rooting for the home team here. So
Yeah, right. What were your thoughts, Fluff? If you voted, what are you voting? You
So I
guys-
played a lot. I mean, I think if you spec the Sentinels to just like have one or two, it's a lot better than like having all three, because like the third one where you're buffing elites, and elites are like crazy overpowered this patch anyways. It's kind of mad, but the currency is insane that you get from them, and it's just like it's the easiest league to implement and to activate, because you just like you hit a button while you're in the map, so it's like it's easy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have not been able to follow really closely.
Okay.
I would have played Sentinel League because I was interesting, and I actually haven't played PoE since they did the map rework with the the map trees and stuff, and I really want to, but things have been really busy with Immortal,
Mhm.
and since Sentinel League came out, I've been just playing a lot of internal Immortal and stuff like
Sure.
that. I'm really busy, but when I kind of like talk to my friends from 10,000 feet away, there's a lot of talk about the affixes being like some of them being too challenging or something like that. Like what's the story there? What's going on?
So the last league was called Arch Nemesis, and that introduced like what you'd think in Diablo 3, like you've got arcane lasers, and like there's basically all these new elite affixes that you would like kind of craft yourself. It's kind of like Metamorph, but like more. So basically what they did this patch was like, hey, all the elite affixes that you remember those are gone now, and now the arch nemesis mods are the elite modifiers, basically. And so those weren't quite balanced when the league went live. They were insanely tough during the campaign. They had like way more health than they should have, and some of the like gimmicks of the arch nemesis like weren't quite worked out. So they a lot of one shot mechanics and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean I think they've already done like 4 or 5 balance rounds, and so like now it doesn't seem like they're that big of a deal as they were, but there's still things you have to look out for that could one shot you. But I think people are just so used to, it's almost like, you know, in D3, if every elite pack was like, you know, not an elite, basically, like, you know, you wouldn't really think of elites in Path of Exile before. Like, you'd just be like, oh, that guy's gonna have a little bit more health, but like you never really worried about that much.
Right. There'd be a pack and you just kind of like make your way
like,
through
okay,
it.
cool.
Kill them and not even realize they were there.
Right.
Even.
And now it's like, oh, okay, like what does this guy have? It's very D3 in that regard, because like D3, you run into an elite and it's like, okay, this guy's arcane lasers with, you know, cold nova or whatever, and you have to like plan for that. And so now it is kind of like that in Path of Exile, which I think is a good change. I just think they were way too strong coming into the game.
So it's like a good intention, and with a couple extra balance iterations,
I think they'll
probably be in a better place than before.
I think so.
Cool. Well, it sounds like a good change.
Yeah.
You have a poll for next week?
I do. Topical. It is the Meta Podcast question of the week. What class are you starting in Diablo Immortal? And of course, we are limited here by the Twitter. We can only have 3 options. So Barbarian /
my goodness, you're doubling up the options.
That's all I can do. Barbarian / Crusader, Necromancer / Wizard, Monk / DH. Tweet that out and you guys can vote.
It's crazy that Twitter only has 3 options.
I know. Still. It's 5. I think it's 5 in total, but it's still like we're going to be short.
Yeah.
So
awesome. All right, we're jumping into Twitter questions now. If you guys want to submit questions to the pod, you can do them in our Discords. Message us at Twitter, or that's the ways. I've handpicked some. We got a lot of questions for Wyatt this week, so I know
cool.
I couldn't include all of them. So if I didn't pick your question, I apologize, but I did want to do a mix of topical game related questions and then some that were more just like IRL focused kind of things. So but yeah, that's awesome. The response was crazy. The first question comes from Infernal Odin, and he says, what new things are they implementing to stop botting in Immortal? And I know that you're probably not going to be able to give us specifics, right? But I don't know. What are your thoughts? Anything that you can share on your opinions or views on botting in Immortal?
I can't talk about I can't really speak to like specific initiatives for stopping botting. Well, I mean I can and I can't. I would say that our philosophy in general is that the main problem with bots is when they affect the gameplay experience of the non-bot, like the legitimate players, right? And I guess I just thought experiment. If there were 1 million people botting, but the game was identical to you, does it really matter, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because you also have to be careful of false positives. If we try to do some bot detection and then we catch someone who's actually a legit player who's just maybe playing an unhealthy amount or something like that, right? So that's why we try to figure out, okay, how badly is this affecting an ordinary person? And so from that point of view, we actually have made a lot of changes in Immortal. Since it is an MMO, you see other people in the outdoor world. The outdoor world, we shard the outdoor zones. So when there's too many people in a zone, kind of make a copy of that. Also, a lot of the incentive to bot comes from the ability to try and trade things to other players. There's no direct trade in Diablo Immortal. So I think that like severely limits the incentive to bot.
Mhm.
And then I think, sometimes people talk about like Paragon in Diablo 3 as a bad system. I don't know that it's inherently a bad system. We could talk about that all day, I'm sure. I think part of the problem is when people bought it a lot. In Diablo Immortal, there's what we call the World Paragon system. Have you guys heard about the World Paragon system?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have, but you can
Yeah,
explain
right.
it for the audience
Right.
because they didn't get to play beta or see the things probably. So.
Okay, so imagine that the World Paragon, like basically after you get to max level, you're doing your Paragon system. And World Paragon starts at 0 and then goes up by 2 every day. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And if you are lower than the World Paragon, you get a boost to your XP gain that helps you like catch up with your friends who are playing way more than you. And if you are higher than the World Paragon system, then you actually get reduced XP. And one of the side benefits of this system is it reduces the incentive to bot because, ordinary players can totally, like, if you are like, even if you're like kind of a grinder, you're playing for 8 hours a day, and the bot's playing for 24 hours a day, you're not going to be meaningfully behind. And in fact, if you're playing really well and playing really smart and really skillfully, you might even be ahead of the bot that's playing 24-hour a day with your 6 to 8.
Nice. E-Ray says, how do the dev teams at Blizzard cross-pollinate? Do you talk to the MMO godfathers at WoW to find what worked and what didn't with gameplay decisions?
A lot of it is organic through relationships. Some of it's formal through knowledge shares. So it's been a lot less since COVID. That's one of the downsides of COVID, I'd say. But prior to COVID, it was pretty common to, even grab lunch with someone on another team, right? Because that was a thing that you could do. We also have something that we call /learn, where people will put together a presentation to share knowledge and learnings, and they'll do a presentation that other people can see. We've actually done more of that since COVID because we could do that virtually online. So some of that's preserved. And then we also, you just like, honestly, these days we just explicitly set up meetings to talk with, one another. So I'll have like a one-on-one meeting once a month with other game directors on other teams, whether it's, Joe Shelley over on Diablo 4 or Aaron over on Overwatch and so forth. And we can talk about like what's going on, what challenges do you have, stuff like that. So, and that kind of sharing happens at multiple levels too. People get to know people on other teams, and we share that way too.
Awesome. Moon says, do you think there's going to be streamer servers similar to Faralina on WoW Classic? So if you don't know, I'll explain in case people don't know what Faralina is on Classic. When WoW Classic dropped, a lot of the big streamers went to Faralina, which is an alliance, and it made the server heavily alliance based because the streamers played alliance characters. But that's kind of known as the streamer server. I personally avoided them, even though I did stream a little bit. Like I didn't want anything to do with those streamer servers. So I'll hand the mic over to you. What do you think about streamer servers, and think that's going to be a thing?
I'll give you, so your guess is as good as mine. So I'd actually love to
Yeah.
know what you think.
I think yes, personally. I think,
Yeah.
let's just say Asmongold decides to play, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever server he goes on is going to get a huge influx in people because they want to play with him. They want to troll him. They want to help him. Whatever your affiliation is to him. And he's just one of many. He's got buddies that'll probably come play with him too if they choose to. So I would say yes. Me personally, if I find out that they're on one, then I would avoid that server just because, like at least with WoW, I don't know how it'll end up playing out with DI, but with WoW, like I don't want, any part in
Downtime,
that craziness that follows those guys. So.
Yeah. Do you think there's gonna be streamer servers, Fluffy?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just bound to happen if any big person decides to play. Like everyone wants to get on that server. I know that, like, you guys have a lot more experience with that than like somebody like, like this is something that Lost Ark really struggled with. But it's Amazon Games, and they don't really have a lot of background in this, like Blizzard does.
This is something that happened to me on Lost Ark, right? Like, I don't know what your knowledge or experience is with it, Wyatt, but when Lost Ark dropped, they got flooded. It was like super successful launch, right? And they got flooded with people trying to roll new characters. And Fluff, I was like, Fluff, what server are you on? And he tells me the name of the server, which I don't even remember now. And when I loaded up when it went live, it was full. I couldn't make a character there. I'm like, okay.
Right. Oh,
All right,
wait, you didn't get the early access, right?
No, I didn't, right? I thought about it, but I didn't.
On the launch day, they shut down access to the
Those
launch days,
pre-servers,
the early servers, the pre-servers. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then on top, it got worse though, right? So then I'm like, okay, well, not realizing that, like, we can still do some end game activities if we're in the same region. So whatever, we'll figure it out. Or I'll re-roll once they open them back up, which is a huge headache. But I rolled a character, and then I'm literally in Discord with a buddy of mine. And I'm like, okay, we're going to roll on this server. It's open. We can make characters. Because we just wanted to play, right?
Yeah.
I make my character, and I kind of sped through the character creation process because I was like, I just want to get in, right? And my buddy's over there like, oh, man, do I want blue hair or green hair? Oh, look at the eyes. So it took him an extra couple minutes. Like, he didn't spend a lot of time, but it took an extra couple minutes, right? And so he hits create character, and it's like server full. Couldn't do it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then we
did that
backed
happen
out
in the time that he was making his character?
in the time he's making his character. And so we backed out, and we're like, okay, this server is open. And then we couldn't even get characters made. So he ended up not even being able to make a character for like the first 12 hours or something that it was live. And I just leveled up without him. So then I ended up on this random obscure server by myself. My community scattered. I had a bunch of people that were from, my stream community and the New Meta podcast that were going to play with Fluff and I on our server. Ulna, I think, was what the name of the server. They scattered, man. Like once they couldn't get on the server, and their friends were all over. So it was a huge thing. And it also happened to me with WoW Classic. When WoW Classic launched, Bloodshed and I were actually going to make on the same server and kind of get our communities together and stuff. And then last minute, he swapped servers because the queue times were too long. He's like, I can't sit in these queue times. And a lot of my community was the same thing. I'm like, they're like, we're switching. And I'm like, I've committed, I can't drop now. So it was a horrible thing. So now this might be kind of derailing a little bit, but have you guys thought through these things, or do we, is there going to be character transfer in DI, or can I group with somebody on a different server?
You cannot group on someone with a different server. The main reason for that is because sort of like World of Warcraft Classic, we like the idea that people kind of develop server communities, and you get to know the people on your server, and we believe really strongly in that. We are considering server transfers, but it won't be available at launch. We've talked about like trying to support server transfers. I don't know, way in the future. Well, it's definitely like we don't have like a strong philosophical objection at it, other than not right away. Based on everything that you've told me, I guess some sort of streamer servers is unavoidable. It sounds like it's just something people do. Like if I want to be on the same server as a streamer that I watch a lot, then that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
We do have a whole bunch of servers that are going to be available on day one, and we'll add more servers as necessary. Our engineers actually showed me, hey, here's how much capacity we've planned for on launch, but here's how many more we have, waiting if we need to open extras. So
awesome.
Let's hope that's enough. But there's technical challenges there. Like there gets to be a certain point, like you have like your data center, and you have like a certain amount of servers that you have in that data center that you're renting out or whatever. I don't know what the right term is, but apparently this is what the engineers tell me. is there's some point where you can't ask for any more machines in that data center. And so then you have to like set up a whole, and then so then the question is, okay, well, do we, anyway,
maybe
I'm not the right person to talk to for all the details. And so we'll have to see,
cool.
but we do
I think
do capacity planning for that.
Yeah. The hardest thing for you guys is probably capacity planning, right? Like you have to be prepared for the capacity, but it's a new launch on a new platform, kind of, like this is a whole, this to me feels like a new venture, more like with WoW,
to play game.
Yeah. For a while, they know what they're going to get, right? Like they have historical 15 years worth of data at launch. These are our peaks. This is what we hit. I would assume, like I'm assuming here, but they're going to have all this data. But this DI, this is going to be new for you guys. This is new territory.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we do have the 35 million pre-registrations, and so
that's crazy.
we know and we know what regions those pre-registrations come from. So that kind of gives us a little bit of a hint and helps us out a lot with the capacity planning. Also, I don't know if you saw, but preloading on PC went out today.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't.
You can actually
you
can start preloading. There you go. So we can see, well, how many people are preloading. That can be a good indicator of how many people we're going to have on day one as well. So there's some hints that we have. So hopefully that'll help. There's one thing that might help with the streamer problem, or not problem, but the streamer server. I mean, I guess we'll call it problem. Which is that some streamers want to be on the same server together. Like you mentioned, you and Blood want to maybe you want to make content together. Maybe you want to make a dual stream together. Maybe you and Fluff would want to run some dungeons together for a dual stream. I don't know. And so then you want to be on the same server as other people. But then because of the Immortal system, right? Maybe every content creator wants to be able to make content as an Immortal. And so there's some incentive to be on a different server than another streamer because there's only one per server. So I think that does act as a counterbalancing force to provide a reason to be on your own server where other streamers aren't.
Can we get a Path of Exile streamer queue so that we can just get right in? I'm kidding. That's a joke.
Well, that's assuming we're not going to get straight in. I think Blizz is going to have it.
I have to point out for Chris, if he's watching, Fluffy said that, not me.
I would I have faith. Like the last couple of Blizz launches I've been witness to have been pretty good. So
don't jinx it, P.
I know I'm jinxing. I'm setting you up, Wyatt. I have faith. Let's see. The next question we have comes from Hex. He said, Wyatt, you're stuck on an island. You only get to bring one movie to watch over and over for eternity. What are you bringing? The hard one. Fluff, we'll go ahead and answer it too. He directed it at Wyatt.
You guys should answer that too. I mean, I know I had Wyatt in there, but that sounds like a question we could all answer. Yeah.
One movie. Fluff and I probably answered this at some point, right? I
mean, my favorite movie is Social Network.
Really?
Okay.
What?
Yeah. Because there's so many layers to it. One, it's obviously a great dialogue, but two, as an engineer, I can appreciate it. Three, it's the start of social media, which is kind of some would argue the beginning of the end for society. So I think that in so many levels, it's a pretty fascinating movie.
Have you guys seen the new Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers?
No.
Okay. I don't know that I would have heard of it. Oh, it's got John Mulaney's in it with who's the other person that's in it with him? Andy Samberg, is that, am I getting the name right?
From SNL.
Yeah. Anyway, they're Chip and Dale, and it's not a young cartoon. It's actually targeted at older people.
Okay.
And it's just got a ton of. I only mention it because I'm hey, if I'm gonna be, I'm not even. By the way, I'm not even picking this movie. I was running some movies in my head, and I was well, actually, Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers has 100 different characters, and like I've definitely thought, hey, if I watch it again, like it's almost like each time you watch the movie, you notice something that you didn't notice the first time, or a character you didn't notice the first time. So anyway, I'm not plugging that movie right now. I'm just thought I'd ask.
I don't know if I have one. Like it's hard. Like any movie after a couple times is gonna get old.
Sure. Just pick your favorite movie. What's your favorite movie?
Well, I don't know if it's like Lord of the Rings is a great story. So can I take that trilogy? I mean, I could watch that a couple times, I guess. But after the 50th time, of course, I'm like this. I'm done. I don't know.
There's a movie I love. It is not very well known. It's called The Shadowlands. It's super obscure. It was like anyway.
Good WoW expansion. Wait, what?
That's true. I didn't even think of that.
Why it's like I'm bringing the WoW expansion with me.
Oh no, this movie was an Anthony Hopkins movie. It was Anthony Hopkins and Deborah Winger, and it's a story of it's like a biographical story of C.S. Lewis, and I don't know. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Okay. I'd probably pick something like that.
Okay.
All right. Coda says, Wyatt, do you drink coffee? If so, black, or do you put creamer in it? Coffee.
Going forward, by the way, from now on, I mean, I guess you're reading the questions out. If it says why, but any of us can answer it, you should just like, hey,
they already know that we drink coffee. So,
okay.
But I guess I'll answer. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And then I used to drink coffee, and then I actually cut caffeine out about a year ago because it was giving me all sorts of bad headaches. I actually miss caffeine a lot because I think it's super cool, but good when you're like trying to focus and stuff like that. But man, the headaches, I couldn't take it anymore.
Wow.
So now I drink decaf. If I go to Starbucks, I get like a latte with almond milk decaf, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I drank coffee. I don't know why I started drinking coffee. I've gone through periods in my life like you, where I quit. There was several years where I stopped. I drink it now, and it's more just like a treat thing. I probably drink a cup of coffee every day. That's not much, like just like a single mug, but it's more just for the taste more. So
there's a nice ritual to it too.
Yeah, it is. It's part of the ritual, right? It's part of that, like, hey, I'm making breakfast. I'm gonna make some coffee, and then I sip on that one cup all day. Like I drink cold coffee, which people think is savage, I guess, but I don't care personally. So
yeah, that's what I do too. My wife drinks her coffee like she just drinks it black and downs the whole thing in like 5 minutes. Yeah, and I'm just like I can't do that.
If my wife only drinks it if it burns her mouth. I'm like, you drink it so hot. I don't understand how you can do this. It has to be like scalding hot, and otherwise she won't drink it. I don't get it. I'm like,
I used to drink my coffee like pee and just like load it up with sweetener and all that garbage. Mm-hmm. But when I went through my breakup last year, I already had a nice car, so my midlife crisis purchase was a espresso machine. Best thing I ever bought. Like you just become like a connoisseur of good coffee, and so I make my like you said, the morning ritual. Every morning I'm waking up and I'm like excited to like make my latte because it's so effing good.
The game changer for me was the air fryer. I don't know if either of you guys have purchased an air fryer yet.
Man, you have one to that. Air fryers are a game changer.
Like if you don't have one, you don't know. But once you get it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is like
this should be the air fryer podcast.
It's life changing, isn't it? It really is, though. Yeah. It changed the way I cook. Like it really does.
Yeah. You guys know, so the general manager of the Diablo franchise is Rod Ferguson, right? Mm-hmm. And he does a thing at work where, like, because here's the thing is he oversees basically, hundreds of people spread across the country and even beyond, right? Like there's some people who are in New York, Albany, and there's people who are in California and people who are like all over the place. And I think as part of his goal to like get messaging it out, but also to be like more relatable and to help people get to know him, he hosts basically we call it the Rodcast on Thursdays. and you can tune in for an hour. I kid you not, there's been at least 3 rodcasts where he talks about air fryers, because they're so amazing. They're life changing.
Yeah.
I have neither.
I'm looking over at
really
Fluffy. Fluffy has a look on his face like we're talking about WoW.
If you,
or something.
I just
I'm
don't
telling
have
you, Fluff,
either, so I
if
don't
you
know.
get an air, you need an air fryer. Ask
Like,
your-
what is the
when your
number one
mom-
thing you guys make with both of those?
You can make
chicken
anything.
thigh.
Chicken.
Yeah, you can anything you would cook in the oven. You can cook in the air fryer. It's faster and better. Like, it just
Get chicken thigh with the skin on,
Okay.
and then you air fry that, and the skin just goes like super crispy.
Okay.
It's
toasted
amazing.
ravioli.
Check it
You
out.
know,
Oh, that
Yep.
sounds good.
toasted ravioli.
You ever get what do they call it? The Asian dumplings, like pot stickers. Have you ever had those?
Yeah,
Yep.
I know what you're talking about. I haven't done those in the air fryer, but those are
You
good.
can air fry those, and they come out like deep fried pot stickers.
Wow.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So next time, Fluff, like for Christmas, your mom's always like, Fluff, I don't know what to get you for Christmas. Give me an air fryer, Mom.
All
There
right.
you go. Like, and
Agreed.
then you're gonna be like, thanks, B.
Yeah.
Um,
You'll
Let's
thank
see.
us.
Yep. Where were we at here? Acre says, if you guys could visit any fictional place for a day, where would you go?
Fictional place.
Fictional place. So I guess
Fictional place.
video game land or movies or books or whatever.
I'll go to Sanctuary.
Sanctuary. I wouldn't want to go to Sanctuary. Man, I make it.
Oh, do
back
I get to
home.
be a Nephilim when I visit Sanctuary?
Right, yeah. I don't know. Hardcore mode or
That'd be cool.
softcore? What are we playing here? Because you died 7 times.
All
in
right,
hardcore
chill out.
this season. Oh wait, we're not talking
Still
about
rank
that this
1.
week? I'd want to. I don't know, man. I go to the Matrix, dude. I want to like plug in and be Neo for a day. That'd be pretty badass.
Pretty sweet.
That's my pick. That's my final answer.
Wyatt,
I
what do you
think
got?
I would visit what's the land in Breath of the Wild? Hyrule
Yeah, Hyrule. Yeah,
in Breath of the Wild.
that'd be cool.
Okay.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
Nice. Hopefully the less fatal parts. So, yeah. We'll go
Back
there.
Ganon's castle. Okay. What did you say, Fluff?
Sanctuary, dude.
Sanctuary. Okay. Elias98 says, I think this is directed at you, Wyatt, but he says, do you have a favorite fictional character / superhero? And we can all answer too. But are you a comic book geek by chance?
No, same answer as the Marvel. Like I look at a bunch. Well, okay, so my background as a designer is like systems, and so when I was young, even when in my comic book days, Marvel had this comic book series called the Marvel Universe. Have you heard of this?
Mhm.
It's like not even a comic. It's like an encyclopedia.
Hmm.
It's like an almanac of superheroes. So that's what I read. Favorite hero? I always liked Mr. Fantastic,
Okay.
like with the stretchy limbs and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
They just cast John Krasinski from The Office, or all the other good stuff
Really?
he's done. He was
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
he's him, and they're gonna make a couple movies with him. So
Really?
I thought it was a pretty cool choice.
Fantastic
Actually.
Four movies always do really well.
Yeah. Well, he was in Doctor Strange, Fluff.
I know.
Oh, actually, I
Spoiler,
want to change my
by the way.
answer because I totally forgot. Do you guys remember? Did you guys watch the Netflix Jessica Jones season 1 with Kilgrave,
I didn't. I know what you're talking about, but I didn't.
played
actually
by
watch it.
David Tennant?
Mm-mm.
Okay, that's best
Is it good?
villain.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite fictional hero, my superhero is Batman, but character in general, I think is Joker. Honestly, from Batman, I'm a big Joker fan. I don't know. He doesn't have crazy superpowers. He's just an evil madman, and I just like the things that they can do with him.
Okay. Well, the first book I read was Lord of the Rings. I'm a big Witch King of Angmar fan.
Yeah.
That was my jam.
How cool was it when you saw the movies, Fluff, and he flew down on the dragon and just like smashed his mace and like
broke Gandalf's shit.
Yeah, that was awesome, dude.
Yep.
Such a good scene. That's it, guys. That's all the questions I put on the docket. There's one more.
All right.
This is the most important. This is the most important
there's two
question.
More. This is a real question.
Okay.
I asked a small time streamer, Quinn69, his question. He asked, will there be any head start for Diablo Immortal?
What does that mean? Head start?
Like, well, if you prepay, can you start before everybody else? Or if you pre-order, is there any kind of...
No.
Okay.
No. So the game will be fully launched on June 2nd at 10 a.m. And we put this in the blog, and actually I guess this is worth mentioning, is that the way that the game rolls out, like if it was just a only PC, then we would like flip a switch, right? And it'd be out. But we have to coordinate with Apple and Google as well as, the Battle.net platform. And we can't like flip a switch and have that all go out immediately. So I put this in the blog, but the Apple and Google stores will start to roll out Immortal on June 1st, actually. So I guess people will see it. Maybe it depends. It's hard to say for sure because that distribution is handled by them.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a lot more frustrating when you have to deal with I say frustrating, not in a bad way, but it's the same for when you release game updates to Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo and all that too, trying to coordinate all that as well. Imagine it's a pain. So.
I mean, that's just the reality of how the platforms are built. And I mean, I'm not complaining. It's just okay.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Great. Well,
Yeah.
That's how it is. That's what we'll do.
Yeah. This question comes from me.
Okay.
Bacon or sausage?
I'm sorry, what?
Bacon or sausage? That's simple.
Skin or sauce?
Bacon or sausage.
Bacon or sausage?
Bacon. Oh, yeah. I knew you were going to ask this because you ask this a lot for all your guests.
Every guest, yeah.
And I always think, no, it's for me, it's sausage for sure.
Yeah!
No. Wyatt, you broke tradition. I was batting 1,000. I had never lost.
Finally, someone with some IQ that we've had on the podcast. Oh my god.
He's just kidding, Fluff. He meant to say bacon.
Well, here's the thing: is I don't know that question's totally fair because like bacon is one food, but sausage is like a whole class of food.
Exactly.
Like I would never say like, hey, like what's better, an orange or vegetables? Like
exactly.
That's ridiculous.
You have a
you're getting
layered
breakfast.
brain.
You're getting breakfast, and there's a tray of bacon, or there's a tray of sausage. Which one are you picking?
Oh, I'd still get the sausage. I mean,
my man.
Oh my god! I tried to even set it up. I tried to set it up to where he'd pick bacon, and he still let me down.
I don't
All right,
know.
well, you're banned from the podcast. No, you're not welcome back.
No, he's welcome.
You
back.
know what I
was
will
getting
say?
you co-host.
Have you ever had Korean barbecue?
Of course.
I have not. Haven't.
Oh, okay. When you go for Korean barbecue, you can get like pork belly, which is kind of like bacon, but really, really thick cut.
Mhm.
That's the best. That's really good. I will agree.
All right, that's okay. I'll take one loss. I still have like 50 wins, so it's okay. I'm still up. Although I was really rooting for you, Wyatt. That's it. No, that's cool. I'm glad Fluff finally got a win on that. So. Thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. It was awesome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You. Yeah.
It was nice to chat. I wish we should have done this sooner.
Yeah, I agree. We'll have you back again sometime soon, I hope. So maybe once your schedule frees up and you have some more things to talk about Immortal on. I'd love to get you on for that and then just yap about other things as well.
Cool.
Awesome. Where can the viewers find you? I mean, I know there's so many questions that I had that we didn't even get into, but you do stream a little bit. You're on Twitter. Tell people where they can find you and all those things.
Yeah, on Twitter, I am at CandleSun. I tweet mostly about, I don't know, not that often, but sometimes, I guess, in bursts. I game jam a lot. That's probably one of the main things I like to do on Twitter is talk about game jams and game development. I stream some of my game jams, twitch.tv/CandleSun, same as my Twitter handle.
Awesome.
I don't stream very often. It's like 2 to 4 times a year. And I try not to stream Blizzard games. I just stream like game development in Unity, which I just kind of do for fun on the side.
Awesome. You guys want to catch more of me? I am the PChild on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all the places. You search the PChild and you'll find me there.
Yeah, I'm Lord_Fluffy. Double those underscores on the Twitter, and we'll see you boys next week. Thanks again, Wyatt. Peace out, dudes.
Thanks for coming on.